reliant on those freshmen, that they had depth and the ability to sort of use their experience if in a situation where they had, they had freshmen play like freshmen, and like that's inevitably what undid them was the Bradley foul trouble combined with Burry's and certainly Pete to start not playing to the level we're used to seeing. And so, when you look at how teams are maybe built, maybe being overly reliant on freshmen isn't the best way to go, and maybe we overlooked the overly reliant part of Arizona in terms of that because, look, I mean, the Bradley foul trouble was big, but it shouldn't have undone them because they had the depth to overcome that all year. But with the combination of Burry's kind of not playing at the level we're used to seeing and maybe a more aggressive, more difficult defense to handle was a big reason for that.
Yeah, the freshmen really for the first time since maybe November looked like freshmen. And we saw it in the other game too with Keaton Wagler and Illinois and UConn really controlling that one. So the championship tonight between Michigan and UConn. We have a lot to get to on today's program in terms of what went wrong for Arizona. We're going to have some Arizona postgame locker room audio with Mo Krivas and Tobe Awaka and Karchinkov and Burries and Pete and Bradley, all the guys that we talked to before the game. We're about 30 minutes away from that. And then in hour number 2, we'll preview the national championship. We'll look at who is the new college basketball unicorn because we've identified who that could potentially be. Norm Roberts, the coach, who we saw out in Indy, he'll join us in hour number 2. And then we go back to our Modelo Spring road trip touring Big 12 country, little football session highlighting the Colorado Buffaloes. So let's hear from Tommy Lloyd. Here's what Tommy Lloyd said, just his initial thoughts, clip 1 after the loss to Michigan.
First off, I want to, thank the players, on our team and the staff. They were amazing this year, and it was an awesome journey and as much fun as I've ever had coaching basketball. And secondly, I want to give credit to Michigan. I mean, they were outstanding tonight and, really had us on our heels all night and when we could never get into a rhythm. And, so they get a ton of credit for that. No one's kind of been able to do that to us all year. And so it was an impressive performance by them.
Was Tommy Lloyd, he's a phenomenal coach, but was he the best coach on the sideline in this game?
No. And Tommy Lloyd would be the first to tell you that. In fact, in winning his award for Naismith Coach of the Year, he basically said this should go to Dusty May because of what he accomplished and what he did. And, look, in the best coaches are going to take responsibility when you lose and then praise players and give them the credit when you win. And that's what Tommy's doing here. And, I think there's elements of both. Was Tommy out-coached? Sure, you can make the case. But it just felt like we had not seen an offense like that from Arizona all year. And I think there's an easy narrative about three-point shooting and how, ultimately it was the three-point shooting that undid them. And, I don't think that's the case at all. They just didn't have good offense. And early on, they were getting good looks. They were just missing. They're getting looks that they make all year that they were just missing from point blank, shots rimming out. They missed a bunch of free throws. It shouldn't be a secret how they lost. This wasn't some key coaching decisions that Tommy Lloyd or Dusty May made in this game. Look at their free throw shooting. At one point, you look up and they had 2 assists and 9 turnovers, and they're shooting 50% from the free throw line. That's not coaching. That's on players to not execute at the level we've seen them execute all year. Credit Michigan's defense. But, yeah, and then, the three-point barrage for Michigan, from a defensive perspective for Arizona, this thing was already done by the time the three-point barrage started for Michigan. This was 16 points at halftime, and three-pointers weren't a huge difference in that first half, despite a 16-point deficit. The second half is where, Yax comes out and after basically not playing in the first half at all, drills 2 threes, and then Cadeau, and they were off and rolling. I think they had 7 of their first 9 threes in the second half. So, the three-point shooting for Michigan wasn't the difference in the game. It was the extender for them. It took them from 16 to 30.
Right. And another takeaway I had, sometimes guys can have, we can read about all the stats in the world. We can we can go through the scouting report in detail, but sometimes when you take the floor, the guy that averages 15 and 7 for one team and the guy that averages 15 and 7 for the other team, there can still be discrepancies in talent. And I felt that way when I saw Morez Johnson, when I saw Elliot Cadeau, guys that on paper, even McKinney off the bench, and Lindenborg is a dude. I mean, he is a dude. There's just no doubt about it. But sometimes guys that on paper look really similar, like you get on the court and you're like, okay, he's quicker, he's got longer arms, he's just not asked to score as much. And Michigan, I thought their speed was the difference. Arizona's the fastest, most physical team in the Big 12. And Michigan had a lot of height on them. But also, I was blown away by their quickness. They were quick. They were fast. They got up and down the floor at will, at NASCAR tempo. And they were just a more talented team. And there's no way to know that. They had two common opponents, Purdue and TCU, all year long. So give credit to Michigan. Now, I want to ask you about the parallels, because we were talking about this during the game, between Texas Tech football and Arizona basketball and what it means for the conference. And you were at both. You saw all the pregame hoopla and hype for the Final Four in the college football playoff. Arizona had won the Big 12 regular and postseason. They'd won 13 straight games going into this contest. They'd set a program record, hottest start in program history, most regular season wins. Texas Tech football, second in the country in scoring at 43 points per game, led the nation in rushing defense and turnovers gained. And then they play in the college football playoff and they get shut out, and they're -3 in the turnovers. Any parallels between how the seasons ended?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a lot of ways they felt very similar, and being in the building for both of those games, you know, it felt in the building in those moments like very similar. And I think you start with offensive issues. I mean, obviously with Texas Tech, that was more obvious, I think, than with Arizona, but and you know, I guess you could say something we're not used to seeing from Arizona, offensive issues. Maybe we probably could have more readily identified the offensive issues for Texas Tech football than we could for Arizona. But and I don't want to just say it was just a down shooting night, but I mean, 37% from the field. You know, they had 14 turnovers. They only had 9 or 5 assists. I mean, 22-5 to me is the game here. Michigan's 22 assists. Arizona just had 5 with 14 turnovers. So, yeah, I mean, it was very much the same story. In some ways, it felt hopeless. And I think both games felt hopeless. Maybe the Arizona-Michigan game felt more hopeless from the early part. But I would say they both were really hopeless. And, yeah, I mean, from a big picture, Big 12 takeaway, you know, you've got two kind of championship opportunities here, and you didn't look great in either of them this year.
Big 12 has had one team in the national championship since 2022 when Kansas won it. That was fresh off COVID, circling back to basketball. Had Houston in the national championship last year, knocking on the door. We noted that, 5 different schools have been in the Natty or in the Final Four since 2019. With Arizona's loss, it would be the Final Four, I guess. In terms of this league being the most dominant, most competitive, most balanced, deepest league in college basketball, is that enough for the Big 12? Or are we hitting a territory where we should be wanting more?
No, I mean, of course we should want more, especially for a league that thinks and aspires to be the best basketball league in the country. And I think you can make the case, but, you know, the Big Ten, maybe on the precipice of winning their first championship in basketball since 2000. Since the last Big Ten championship, the ACC and the Big East have each won 8.
Wow.
The SEC has won 4. The Big 12, 3. And, you know, when you look overall, like, so the ACC has been around for 73 years. They've had 51 Final Fours and 15 titles. Okay, so that's basically 0.69 in terms of the years around and Final Four. So the ACC is as close to one a year as there is. The Big Ten, very low number, 55 Final Fours in like 100 years of basketball. 10 titles. The SEC has 35 Final Fours and 12 titles in 94 years. That's an average of 0.37, so they're significantly less than 5. The Big East has 26 Final Fours and 11 titles in 47 years. That's .55. That's second. And then there's the Big 12. 14 Final Fours and 3 titles in nearly 30 years, which is close to once every other year. So just third behind the ACC and the Big East. The question is, what does the trajectory look like? And, the 3 titles they've won, I don't have to tell you who they are, right? Kansas has won 2 in the Big 12 era, and Baylor has won 1. I think Arizona and Houston are close, but they haven't broken through yet. When you look at the variety of the ACC, for comparison's sake, I mean, going back in the history of those conferences, you're talking about North Carolina, Duke, NC State, Maryland, and Virginia have all won national titles out of the ACC. So that, I think, is the biggest disappointment when you look at these raw numbers is, Arizona and Houston are close, but they haven't broken through yet and won those titles. I think Arizona's obviously closer, just given their history and the fact that, that they should be in the picture to win championships every year. Kansas should still be there too. We'll see if anybody else emerges. But yeah, I mean, it's not a great picture, especially in comparison to the Big East and the ACC. But the trajectory looks like the Big 10 and the Big 12 are the 2 best moving forward. And we'll see. Look, the SEC still has tons of money and will be in it, I think, too, as they've won a lot of titles within recent history, more so than they did in the first 50 years of the conference.
And how many has the SEC won in recent history?
Well, it's a good question. I mean,
we know Florida's won 3. I mean,
Right.
Florida's won 3 since 06.
Good point.
And I'm
Kentucky's won 1 in that period of time.
They would have won 1 in 2012. I'm trying to decipher in my brain, is the cannibalism at the top of the Big 12 maybe the difference, where you've got Houston and Arizona and a Texas Tech and a Baylor, but the Big 12, historic alpha, is Kansas. It's Duke and North Carolina in the ACC. It's probably Florida in the SEC. In the Big East, it's UConn and Villanova and the runs that they had. Like the NC States of the ACC, the Virginias sneaking through and winning 1. Purdue got close in the Big 10. Those are the gravy teams to me. And the gravy teams to me in the Big 12 would be a Texas Tech, would be the year that Baylor won it, would be an Iowa State if they powered through. I still think, college basketball, when you think about all these teams that are winning the national championship, and UConn might be on the verge of winning their 3rd in the last 4 years, basketball is a very alpha-driven sport. Now, it's changed a little bit in the NIL, modern era, whatever you want to call it, but it's still like the 1 seeds getting through, the 2 seeds getting through, where there's not as many upsets. So I was just trying to think that through in my mind.
Well, and I mean, if we just focus in not on the history of these conferences, but relative to the Big 12 in terms of the existence, all those teams we mentioned with the ACC, Maryland, Virginia, Duke, and North Carolina all won championships in the quote-unquote Big 12 era.
Right.
And
the total numbers when you were talking about those leagues, they've been in existence 3 times as long as the Big 12. So.
Right. Now, the SEC has, I think, 3 in the period of time where the Big 12 has existed, with Kentucky winning twice and Florida. Well, no, that'd be 4. 5. 3 from Florida and 2 from Kentucky in the time period that the Big 12's existed.
Since 97.
So 5 in the SEC. Again, you've got 3 from North Carolina, 1 from Duke, 1 from Maryland, 1 from Virginia in that period of time. So that's 6 from the ACC. You have at least 1 from the Big 10 with Michigan State in 2000, their last one. And then you've got 3 out of the Big 12. And that's not even counting the Big East, which, of course, has at least 3 with Nova. How many did Nova win? 2?
Nova won at least 2.
So that's 4.
Yeah.
With 2 from UConn, 2 from Nova.
Mm-hmm. That man is Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. We'll take a break. We are powered by Modelo. It is a national championship Monday. Arizona falls to Michigan in the Final Four. Deep dive, what went wrong for the Wildcats, coming up next. Michigan coach Dusty May did some nutty stuff, and it worked. This is Big 12 Radio.
Pete out high, one-on-one. Backdoor bounce and a scoop for Del Orso. Reverse layup makes it 22.
Little step and go, big-time delivery.
Haggerty had it taken away. It's a run out the other direction. And a slam the hammer from Karchenkov.
And this is the problem when you play this team.
It made something out of nothing.
Ivan Karchenkov works the baseline.
Oh, man. He's another one of those freshmen. They play for freshmen.
It's pretty clear Arizona State defensively trying to pack the lane and dare Arizona to beat him from the outside. But Karchenkov, the freshman, says no.
35 and 33 minutes. Getting back to full health.
This is a great time.
Karchenkov off the turnover.
What they want to do is just get out quicker from those elbows and blocks to get to a shooter.
Bradley to a cutting Karchenkov. Taken away by Karchenkov. Karchenkov answers. Second half are on a pair of threes from Chase McCarty. Karchenkov will try one and hit it. Well, you give up a three, just go on the other end and get it back. Chris Jr. really moving his feet to stay in front of Karchenkov. Burries can't get by Flemings. Karchenkov banks home a three. Are you kidding me?
We're about 15 minutes away from the Arizona post-game locker room session. Fresh off the disappointing loss to Michigan, Arizona had a hell of a year, winning the Big 12 regular season, the Big 12 tournament, but they come up short in the Final Four against Michigan. And Modelo, fan rule number 14, losses linger longer than they should, especially into Monday morning. Now, I think this loss is justified to linger when you get to this point, to this stage, but Modelo fan rule number 14, losses linger longer than they should, especially into Monday morning.
What always leads us to the conversation about, big picture, how do tournament losses reflect on the conference? And that's kind of an extension of the last conversation we just had on, should the Big 12 expect to win more national championships? There was a really impressive stretch that Kansas and Baylor hit, winning back-to-back titles, which included a 2019 Final Four that had Texas Tech just falling to Virginia. So a 3-year stretch, not inclusive of 2020, of course, because of COVID, that included 3 Big 12 championship appearances, 2 titles, 3 different teams. Very impressive. The Big 12 has now had 4 different teams play for the national championship: Houston, Texas Tech, Kansas, and Baylor. And a 5th in Arizona get to a Final Four. So there is a level of variety here. 5 different teams since 2019 have been to a Final Four out of the Big 12. 4 of them have played for the Natty. 2 have won Natties. It's pretty good. Now, again, got to win titles. And comparatively, the Big East and the ACC have just won more hardware. And that's important to note here, because if the Big 12 is to be the best conference in America, and maybe they were at the top, and maybe the Big East was not, but the Big East on the precipice of winning a 3rd title in 4 years thanks to UConn. So, it's a long way to say, outcomes in the tournament matter. One night in a 40-minute basketball game matter, because at the end of the day, the results matter a ton. And the Big 12 has been on the wrong end of it the last few times, and especially this year, I think, with Texas Tech and Iowa State suffering some injuries that probably have derailed the potential to be more Final Four teams, but it's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. Luck's involved here.
There's no ACC team in the Final Four. There's no SEC team in the Final Four. The Big 12 was represented. Now, the Big 12, since 2019, having all these different schools make these runs, I still think that's a point that the league can lean into. Because remember, from 2000, which is the last time the Big Ten won a national championship, Michigan State won it with Mateen Cleaves and Morris Peterson and that Tom Izzo team back in 2000. There was a stretch from 2000 to 2019 where the only Big 12 team that was going to the Final Four was Kansas.
Yeah.
And the only other 2 that had a Final Four appearance were Oklahoma and Texas. From the last 7 years, we've got 5 different schools that have been to a Final Four. So the league is still in a really good position. Now, if Arizona and Michigan and the other side of the bracket was Duke and Florida, then maybe it's a different conversation. But in terms of stacking conferences against each other, the SEC and the ACC weren't there. The Big Ten had a really good year. UConn's UConn. And then the Big 12. Now, Michigan, really the turning point in this game, and it's not even really a turning point. I mean, to your point, the game was pretty much over at halftime. That's what made it so difficult. But Michigan started the second half 9 for 13 from the floor. They made 6 of 8 from 3. The first 8 and change to start the second half, they built a 72-45 lead. Arizona fans, I know you're disappointed here this morning. Here's what Tommy Lloyd, this was his message, clip 4, Will, to the fans in Tucson of Arizona basketball.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank them for everything. And obviously we're disappointed we weren't able to get it over the top for them. But I think we all saw what's possible again. And so now let's all roll up our sleeves and support each other and see if we can and make this a normal thing. That would be awesome for me. I know, you sit around and you dream as a coach, or you think, and these narratives in the media all get created that you can't win the big one and whatever. You get upset in the tournament. Well, I thought one day, I'm like, man, I can't wait till we get to a Final Four, because I knew we would, but can't wait till we get there, just so, I can maybe just coach and don't have to worry about any of these, your guys' narratives or anything. But then the first thing that popped in my head was like, one Final Four, why don't we go 5 times in 10 years? I mean, that's where my mind's at. I'm going to do it day by day, but that's my big dream. I mean, who knows? Maybe you guys will use that against me saying that someday. But I'm going to dream big, and I'm going to work my ass off to try to make it happen.
5 Final Fours in 10 years. I think the Arizona fans would be very okay with that. Something Tommy said there caught my ear. Eventually, I'll make it to a Final Four where I can just coach. I don't know that this was a Final Four where he could just coach. With all the North Carolina talk, he signs his big contract the day before the game. I just wonder if that had an impact. Like, Jaden Bradley only played 25 minutes, a season low. He was in foul trouble. Braden Burries started 0 for 8 from the floor. Didn't make his first shot until the 15:40 mark of the second half. Koa Pete missed, to your point earlier, a ton of just routine 8 to 10 footers that he's knocked down all season long. He was 6 of 18 from the field. So while Arizona's going through all that, meanwhile, you've got Dusty May at Michigan, who's got his guys shooting baskets at the big house. He wheels out these basketball goals so that they can get used to the depth perception of shooting in an NFL 100,000-seat capacity, wide-open backdrop arena. And then he's drawing up a game plan to have Elliot Cadeau miss on purpose and throw these alley-oop lobs to Mara off the backboard. I mean, he had some nutty stuff in this game.
Yeah, and look, history is written by the victors, right? And had, Tommy Lloyd and Arizona won the game, I'm sure we would have heard about some really unique coaching things that Tommy Lloyd did.
Good point.
I don't know that the distractions or the distraction of the coaching thing played a role. And when we talked about it, none of those guys, this is going to be a brand new roster next year virtually. Krivas could come back, and maybe he will, and there's certainly maybe Kurchenkov comes back, although I'd be surprised if he did. But yeah, I'm a firm believer that, like, if you're a coach in that situation, you should probably address it with your team. Be like, hey, this is what's going on. I'm not going to leave. I'm obviously here for now. From when we talked to players, they said they hadn't heard anything about it. But do I think it was a distraction that caused them to lose the game? No, absolutely not. To Tommy Lloyd's point, I think this is the bigger point about getting and winning national titles. There's luck involved. There's a lot of luck involved. There's all kinds of different things. You get there enough times, it's like fishing, right? You keep dropping a line in, eventually you're going to catch some fish. And so, like, Tommy knows, like, with luck and all these different factors that come into play when you get to a Final Four, get there 5 times in 10 years, you're going to win 1 or 2 of them. And yeah, look, when I look at the trajectory of the conference, do I think that Kansas is the only team that can win a national championship moving forward? No, clearly not.
Right.
In fact, they may be 3rd or 4th on that list, which shows, 1, how much better the conference is at the top, and 2, where Kansas is currently. Mm-hmm. So yeah, for a league that basically was Kansas or bust, now to have 5 Final Four appearances in the last 7 years from 5 different teams, that speaks to a level of optimism that this league should have in terms of their future trajectory.
Totally.
Maybe the numbers historically don't look great comparatively, but 5 Final Four appearances, 5 different schools since 2019.
Does any other league have even close to that? Just trying to think off the top of my head. We can deep dive that. But I don't think any other conference has that many teams or have had that many teams play in the national championship game. I know that for a fact. So the Arizona veterans, this team's going to look very different next year. Braden Burries, Koa Pete, off to the NBA. Jaden Bradley, Tobe Awaka, Anthony Del Orso, no more eligibility. Here's what Tommy Lloyd said about those 3 veteran guys, Bradley, Awaka, and Del Orso, guys that have been in the program for a long time.
They were just in incredible young men, not just really good basketball players, just great young men. I mean, we never had one issue with either one of those guys. They showed up every day. They played when they were a little banged up. They put in the work. They were great teammates. They did an amazing job of helping us kind of continue to build, our culture and kind of raise the standards of the program. So I'll always be thankful for those guys. I mean, I wish there was a 5th year of eligibility. I don't know. I guess I saw there was one, but who knows what will happen with that. But I wish I could coach those guys again because they're awesome young men.
Arizona has 2 commits for next season. Caleb Holt, top 5 prospect.
Who was there on Saturday night. Saw him in the student section or close to the student section. He was getting some praise from the Arizona students.
He's incredible. He's going to be an all Big 12 caliber player immediately. He's a dude. Cameron Holmes is also one of these guys that's rated around the same spot Braden Burries was. Like, he's not a 5-star, but he's a top 30 player. So they have 2 really high-level freshmen coming in next year, but just a kind of a snapshot preview of what their team could look like. I mean, Mo Krivas has a year of eligibility. Karchenkov, will he be in the NBA next year, or does he come back as a sophomore? I'd love to see his game as a sophomore. And then outside of that, like Aristode, if he comes back, I mean, the team's going to look very different. They're going to have to add some dudes in the portal. But with Tommy Lloyd and their style of play, I mean, we didn't think they'd be even close to this good this year. Like last year, Caleb Love was out the door. Carter Bryant was a one-and-done, top 15 draft pick. Nobody saw this coming for this season. So if you believe in Tommy Lloyd, and I do, there's no reason to think Arizona can't be right back in this same conversation next season.
And just now having the data pulled up, the last decade looks really good for the Big 12. Okay? 7 Final Four appearances. So historically in the Big 12, 1997, going back there's 14 total Final Four appearances. 7 have occurred within the last decade.
Wow.
And that, of course, includes, Kansas going twice in the last decade, Baylor, Texas Tech, Houston, and Arizona. 3 title game appearances, 2 national titles, Baylor and Kansas. The Big East has 6 Final Fours. The Big Ten has 6 Final Fours. The ACC has 6 Final Fours. The SEC has 5. So the Big 12 has more Final Fours in the last decade than any other conference.
And more teams, too, right?
Yes, significantly more. The Big Ten has Michigan, Michigan State, Illinois, and Purdue have all appeared in the Final Four in the last decade. The Big East has 5 national title game appearances and 3 national championships. So the Big East leads in terms of national title game appearances and championships. The Big Ten has 3 national title game appearances and 0 titles. ACC 2-2. Big 12 3-2. SEC 3-1 national championship in the last decade. Because Kentucky did it in 12. Florida did it last year.
Well, in the Big East, that's Villanova and that's UConn in their runs that they've had. Thinking back to the fact that Kansas was the last Big 12 team to actually win a Natty, like I look at all the success of the Big 12 and I think, okay, we're due. The Big 12 is due. For all the teams that have been there, all the Final Four appearances, all the teams that were so close, if luck is a factor, and it is, luck is a factor when it comes to these high-profile games. Now, it didn't feel like it in the Michigan-Arizona game, but historically it is a thing. Like the Big 12 is due. Maybe luck will be on the league's side next year. Luck was not on the side of Arizona on Saturday. Coming up next, post-game locker room session. Already talked to Mo Krivas, Tobe Awaka, Karchenkov, Burries, Pete, Bradley, all the guys right after their loss to Michigan. That's around the corner. He's Ari, I'm James. This is Big 12 Radio, exclusively on TuneIn. You're watching us on Big 12 Studios.
You're going to play through those post guys, screens, pick and roll, high-low, everything.
Burries tries. That's a 3, and it'll go. Braden Burries.
Not a
Shot
mismatch.
clock under 10.
They have Pete if they want him.
Burries step back. Gets another.
Never mind. Don't worry about Pete.
So you saw that Penn State game, obviously, It's surprising.
Oh, what a find. Buries the stuff.
He makes plays now. He's done that a few times. Got to get away from him. Yep.
Bradley knew he had it, just picked his pocket.
Nice pass.
Buries the stuff, guard to guard.
About that, all set up by defense.
Bradley got tangled up in gridlock with Castillo, and he threads it through beautifully. Scintillating pass to Buries.
Vision is extraordinary.
Just under 21 a game. Ball chipped away. Cada goes down to the floor. Loose ball. Krivas push up ahead. Buries throws it down.
Terrific play by the big fella.
Just kind of flung it up. No good. Buries draws a foul. Hits a shot. Prospects in this game. Karchenkov hustles and gets the rebound and finds Buries. Oh my goodness. Oh! What a dunk from the freshman guard.
The very talented freshman got space and put him on a poster. But this game
concerned about complacency tonight. And they have gotten haymakers thrown at them. But there's Braden Buries giving Arizona the lead.
Just what are your emotions here, Mo? As Mo Krivas is joining us here on Big 12 Radio, what are your emotions here after this?
Really sad that we couldn't win. I think we owed more to the fans, to everyone. I don't know, really frustrated right now, but I'm sure after a couple of days we will realize what we did this year. So
It's got to be rewarding for you to be a part of such a huge piece to this team after having an injury last year and all that you dealt with to come back this year and help lead a team to the Final Four.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for everyone, for the program that they believed in me, for the coaches, players, everyone. It means a lot, especially after not playing almost the whole year last year. So it means a lot to just be on the court and enjoy wins throughout the season. So really grateful for everyone.
What did Michigan do to you guys, especially in the front court? I mean, you guys as a front court have been so good this year. What did Michigan do to challenge you with their front court, their bigs?
They played really good today. They had really great plan, the game plan. They were physical. They rebounded well. They play on defense really well. So all credit to them.
But I mean, was there anything they did defensively to you guys really disrupt what you normally try to do offensively?
I could say that they were gappy, but we dealt with this all year. We play against teams that just stack the paint, so I wouldn't say anything like crazy, but they were just better than us today.
Yeah. What did Coach Lloyd say to you guys after the game?
He just said how grateful he is for everyone, that he had a lot of fun this year. Of course, that everyone's frustrated, but he thinks that we made Tucson proud.
Yeah. I mean, and what will you remember from this year?
Just all those little moments on the court, off the court, all the process to in the preseason, the hard work that we put in, and then just all the wins, all fun moments. Just, I mean, I will remember this day too. So,
congrats on a great season, and appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Toby Awaka joining us here on Big 12 Radio after Arizona's disappointing loss in the Final Four. Arizona offensively did not look like themselves. What do they do to you defensively?
I think they did a great job of just being in the gaps, clogging up the paint, making penetration for our guards tough, and then as a result, that made post feeds difficult as well. But then obviously defensively, they crossed much more onto Koa, and then Morez onto Mo, and that kind of tossed the wrinkle a little bit, so we just had to adjust. And I think in the midst of that adjustment, they made that sort of 10-1 run, I believe, and that sort of made things difficult, dug ourselves a little bit of a hole. And they're a talented team, and they're like lightning in the bottle when they strike. It can be difficult to come back from.
The way that their bigs, their front court, I mean, obviously you guys have such a good front court. How do they challenge you guys in a way that maybe you hadn't been challenged this year?
I think honestly it was just the way that they packed the paint. Every single catch, there was bodies around. And obviously Mara was tall and lengthy and pretty great at anticipating shots. And then I think just really just keeping the body on us at all times. And then they had great secondary defense. Not just the guy that was marking us, but guys rotating over and making an impact on the ball.
What's something you'll remember from this season?
Just the relationships and the people. It was the greatest basketball environment I've ever been in my career. And just, couldn't ask to deal with a better group of people, better staff. It was just a blessing to be around.
You think about your time in Tucson, I mean, are you able to reflect in the moment here? Is the disappointment? Give me a sense of what you're going through right now.
Honestly, I'm just, I don't know what to feel, to be honest. Just, sometimes things like this, like the shot doesn't hit till later, but, just trying to soak it in and experience all the emotion that comes with it. And, but, I'm just proud to have gotten to this point, farthest of my college career, 25 years since Tucson. I've been able to claim a team in the Final Four. So, obviously you can hang your head on those things, but, it's tough when you make it so close to a championship and it kind of slips through your fingers. I feel like the pain is a little bit more intense, a little bit more heartfelt. So, just taking the ride of emotions as they come and go, and just looking forward.
Thank you. Visiting with Ivan Karchenkov here on Big 12 Radio. So, just give me your thoughts and emotions following this loss.
Tough, obviously didn't want to end it that way, but it is what it is.
What do they do to you guys defensively? Anything new or different you hadn't seen all year?
I wouldn't say like completely new. They play a similar style like Iowa did, like being in a gappy and being handsy, being scrappy. But they're just even taller than Iowa State was, and just made it tough on us. And we didn't adjust as quick as possible, and they took every opportunity they could, and punished us.
I mean, you think Jaden Bradley being foul trouble was significant in that?
Of course, but it's not only on JB's shoulders. We as a team didn't, do the best job. Starting with me, like I don't want to, throw anyone on the bus. I had, some bad drives into the paint, jumping out of bounds, missing a couple layups, just it wasn't, they were really like gappy, and I didn't notice it earlier.
What about their bigs, too? I mean, we've watched this Arizona front court dominate all year, thinking they could do the same thing as this Michigan team. What do they do with their bigs to really disrupt what Arizona's bigs have been able to do all year?
I feel, I always take my bigs over any bigs in the country because I love my bigs. I have, just the connection I have with them. I would say obviously it's a little bit easier to throw lobs to a 7'3" guy with probably like a 7'7" wingspan or anything. But no, they're doing a good job. Especially with the rescreens, it's tough if you're playing a zero. They're good big guys, but that's a rock with mine.
When you think back on your one season here in college basketball so far, I mean, what do you think about it? And then how does it compare to some of the pro leagues you played in?
I mean, it was great. At the beginning, I didn't know, what to expect, especially with the long preseason. I was like a little skeptical, but yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed because I let it, come to me instead of forcing anything. And yeah, especially off the court with these guys, I loved every second of it. Being in the plane, being a little silly, playing 2K, playing FIFA, Mario, whatever. Having food together, dinner together, having meetings together, practice together, endless practices. And I felt like that showed in the whole season how good our chemistry is. And I'm also happy, for those guys that, the vets, the seniors, that they had a, kind of last dance in college. And, we made it to the Final Four. Obviously, we didn't make it further, but, still, gave them something where in 20 years we will reunite and, laugh at each other.
Congrats on a great season, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. Let's talk with Braden Burries here following Arizona's loss in the Final Four. What are your emotions after this game?
Sad, disappointed, but played a good team. Michigan was a good team. They played a great game. We didn't play as such a good game. Today wasn't our day, and congrats to them, honestly.
Did they do anything defensively to you guys different from maybe what you'd seen all year?
No, they were a little bigger, but I'll just say our shots were just in and out, honestly. They were making almost every shot. Big time shots, tough shots, open shots, so they just played a great game. And our shots were just in and out. It just wasn't our day, and today was their day.
Yeah. When you think back on your one season so far in college hoops, what will you remember?
I remember just the memories, with the guys. I'm very blessed for them, to meet them. And honestly, best moments was probably just practice or just being in the locker room, being around the guys, just talking to them. Not even talking hoops, just talking about life, honestly. So that's what I'm gonna miss.
Yeah. What did you learn about yourself this year?
I learned how to communicate better, with other people, how to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations, and I learned through adversity, have a small circle and know who to lean on, and that's what I learned. I learned a lot this year. Learned a lot about myself. Yeah.
Being comfortable, being uncomfortable is that's the key to life right there. Yeah. You got to become comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Just we got a great team. We got a great group of guys. all great character guys, and you know, not only that, we got a great coach, Coach Lloyd, and the whole staff, just great guys. You know, and they was there every step of the way. So I'm just like sad that we didn't be able to get it done for them, honestly. So yeah.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Big 12 Radio here with Koa Pete. What are your emotions following this loss?
It's tough, man. It's tough. You know, I really wanted to win for this team and for Coach Lloyd, but you know, just proud of these guys and you know how far we came and you know what we accomplished this year.
What did you learn about yourself this year?
Man, I mean, I learned a lot. You know, I became a better man coming here, being around these guys. You know, I learned a lot about myself and my faith and everything, and I'm just really thankful for all these guys.
Is there anything Michigan did to you guys defensively you didn't really see all year?
I mean, they're obviously a bigger team, you know, really lengthy, but, you know, I just thought we couldn't really get into our flow much and, you know, we couldn't really get that many shots to go down. You know, a lot of shots were going around the rim and then going out. It was tough, but, you know, it was Michigan's day today.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at Jaden Bradley, the foul trouble, you think that impacted your kind of inability to get consistent sets?
100%. I mean, it's a Big 12 player of the year. It's tough when he's not on the court with us.
Thank you. Hey, Jaden, just what are your emotions after this loss?
You know, definitely tough. You know, wish I can, you know, press the reset button and go after it with my guys. It's not knowing I can't compete with these guys again, can't put on this uniform. But, you know, I'm just proud of the guys, and, you know, it's definitely tough.
Yeah, I mean, when you look and see Arizona has 5 assists in a game, like, how does that happen?
You know, it was just hard to find our flow, hard to find our rhythm. I don't think we weren't sharing the ball. We just weren't hitting the shots we normally hit. It happens, and, you know, we just got to look back at it. And, I mean, I feel like we'll get the same shots. We just hope they fall next time.
I mean, was the loss of flow also due to the fact that you dealt with foul trouble 3 in the first half? You had to sit with, 5 minutes ago in the first half with 3 fouls?
Yeah, not even that. Even when me out the game, we have some very talented other players. They stepped up today. Just we had to. It was just different seeing Michigan's size, their length. You know, we don't play against them all the time, so we weren't used to it, and we couldn't adjust fast enough.
How do you make the contrast, the success of the season, getting here, first time in 25 years, with the disappointment of losing? Does that come with time?
Yeah, no, it comes with time. I feel like right now you're not worried about what you did this year, all of your self achievements or any of that stuff. You're just worried about this game right here. You know, it's going to take some time kind of to get over it, and then after, I feel like you can reflect and see all the good memories we had and everything, the good stuff that you did. But right now, I'm just trying to be here for my brothers and, you know, do what I can.
Yeah, when you reflect now on an Arizona career, and I know you will spend way more time doing that, you know, moving forward, but in your immediate reflection, what will you remember about your career at Arizona?
Man, it was legendary. You know, I'm happy I stuck here for 3 years. Appreciate everybody, the support, you know, all the players that came through, all the people, ex-players that came back, supported me, gave me some nuggets and, you know, some knowledge. And, you know, and I hope I can come back and do the same for others.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jaden Bradley guarded by Boogie Fland. Fland is a good defender. Up and over. Chenyelu goes Bradley.
Rest of our fabulous TNT Sports crew here from Tucson, Arizona.
Just vicious in the non-conference play. He's obviously almost always guaranteed to give you 10 and 10.
Bradley with the block there, went the other way, but they didn't have the ball. That's going to be out of bounds.
David Punch. That tough shot, challenge. Freeboss, you talked about it earlier.
Yep.
The effect, even though he doesn't get a block shot, Fran, he clearly changed that one. It's back to the other end. Jaden Bradley, chance for 4.
Roy pulls off target from deep, buries the rebound. Karchenkov in transition. Bradley, look out!
But I think Kingston Clemens is the sole reason as to why.
Pachucas threw it right away to Bradley all alone.
Del Orso, three.
Tough one.
Oh, Karchenkov, what a save.
Nice.
Great look. Del Orso from Bradley.
Remember, it's not just the first shot, it's the offensive rebound. Bradley trying to do it himself. He does! He hit it!
Today on Big 12 Radio, your official home for the Big 12. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. You're watching us on Big 12 Studios, listening to us exclusively on TuneIn. Just heard all the post-game audio from Mo Krivas and Awaka and Karchinkov and Burries and Pete and Bradley. And Tommy Lloyd puts a wrap on the Arizona season, says it's never easy to lose in that way.
It'll probably take a little time, I knew we could do this year, and I thought we had a chance to win this 4-team tournament, but obviously Michigan had other thoughts today. So, I'm sure we'll get back home and take a breath, but I know myself, no loss at the end of the season feels great, but I also think it can be a great learning tool. So, we're going to, take a breath, probably try to figure out what our roster looks like next year. And like I've always said, in this business as a coach, you got to be tough enough to take disappointment and show back up. And we're going to show back up and we're going to try to do this again, but see if we can do it a little bit better.
A really interesting way to kind of frame that. We thought we could win this 4-team tournament. I mean, every 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament is kind of a new 4 or 8-team tournament. They'll be back, no doubt.
Yeah, no. And again, like, history is written by the victors. So there's this great piece that breaks down, Dusty May and his influences and how he's gotten here and what his approaches are. And, it's hard not to be a prisoner of the moment and look and be like, well, the two best coaches in college basketball right now are clearly Dusty May and Danny Hurley. Well, that's what it looks like, right?
Last year it was Kelvin Sampson and John Shire.
Right. Or
Todd
Golden.
Sorry.
So, yeah, if John Shire gets to a national championship game, I'm sure we'll hear the same thing. So, we're prisoners of the moment, and history is written by the victors. And not to say that Dusty May or Danny Hurley aren't great. In fact, Hurley probably is the best coach in America right now. 3 national title appearances in 4 years is unprecedented in the modern era. But, yeah, is Tommy Lloyd a bad coach suddenly because they didn't win that game? No. He's as good of a coach as had they won the game. And, you get more bites at the apple, you're going to get more opportunities to win national titles, and they will.
Will, do you still have all those tallies on the whiteboard?
No, but I remember.
Can you do it again?
Yes. So you brought up last segment, or 2 segments ago, since 2019, conferences with appearances in the national championship game. Big 12 leads with 4. ACC has 2. Big 10 now has 2 if you count this year. Then you've got a Mountain West in there. But nobody else has more than 2. Big 12 has 4.
Yeah, nobody even has 3. Like when Will did this exercise and had all the tallies, it's the Big 12 and everybody else. Twice as many. It's not even close. Now, one thing that wasn't close, the new college basketball unicorn to me is the skilled big man. The 2 teams that are playing for the national championship tonight has one thing in common. They have dominant, skilled, excellent feet, excellent hands, can shoot, finish around the rim, big men. Like the new 5-star recruit in college basketball is no longer the 5-star point guard from Atlanta. It's the 7-footer who grew up playing soccer in Europe. Like I look at Mara in that game, 7'3". He had 26 points. He had 9 rebounds. He controlled the paint on both ends. And he outplayed Mo Krivas and Koa Pete in that game. And when Lindenborg went down early, he didn't fade. Like, he took over in this game. And I'm thinking about Terrace Reed Jr. at UConn, 6'11", 260. Even Morez Johnson at Michigan, a legit 6'11". And we've had all the data about height mattering now more than ever, but I don't just think it's height. It's not height if you just have a bunch of big, lumbering big men who can't get up and down the floor, don't have good feet and hands. With Mara, I saw a unicorn, like something that is really rare, but something that in this year's tournament, the teams that they have that type of player are here at the end.
I will point out that in a segment we did before the Final Four, where we went through some of the most important storylines heading into the Michigan-Arizona game that maybe weren't being discussed. One of the topics there was Mara. And basically I wrote, and we talked about this, he might be their best player. This is what we said before the game. He has over 100 blocks in the season, averages nearly 3 blocks per game in the tournament. He's averaging over 5 assists per game. So at 7'3", he's really skilled and can play in every way. 5 assists that he was averaging in the tournament. How many did he have in the Michigan game, in the Arizona game?
I think he had 3 or 4.
Right, but he had 26 points.
And how many hockey assists did he have?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, he was a problem going into this game. He was probably the most underrated player because we focused and heard so much about Lindenborg and about Cadeau and a lot of these other guys. And, you know, kind of quietly, he was the star. And, I mean, he was the difference because with Lindenborg out the first half, basically, the 16-point lead was built in part because of what Mara did. Now, look, Illinois lost. They have a bunch of skilled big men. Arizona has skilled big men. So I think your point is well stated. Like, this was always going to be, you know, the year of the big man, and we're just seeing in the, you know, biggest stage some of these guys and how skilled they are emerge. You know, Terrace Reed's interesting because you would have thought, like, Illinois would have had the front court to match that, and he still dominated. So, like, if anybody thinks Michigan just runs away with this thing tonight, one, you're sleeping on Danny Hurley, and two, you're sleeping on the fact that Reed has been doing this against front courts that should be supposedly better than what he's bringing to the table.
Mm-hmm. These big men, when you add the international aspect of it, I think that we're seeing the end result of big men that grew up shooting threes because everybody wanted to be the next Steph Curry, handling the basketball because everybody wanted to be the next Steph Curry. So now you have a bunch of 7-footers that can play on the perimeter, have great hands. If they grew up in Europe, they grew up playing soccer, so they have feet. Flory Badunga is a great case study on that. And because of their quick twitch, like Mara had over 100 blocks this season. He averaged like 3 a game, Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. That's not by accident. Like, you have the difference now is your big man's no longer just a walking foul. He's impacting shots because of those quick twitch. And these guys get up and down the floor more so than ever.
Well, yeah, and the unicorn is Victor Wembanyama, right? Which is exactly what you're saying here. It's the skilled big man. Well, there's nobody bigger and nobody more skilled than 7'6" Victor Wembanyama, who, is about to make the playoffs for the first time in his career and maybe win a championship in his first career playoff appearance. And so, yeah, I mean, when you think about how many players grew up idolizing Steph Curry, and Wembanyama's about to be in that same category, and he's 7'6" and is as skilled of a big man as we've ever seen play the game.
And then the passing aspect of it, too. We had a segment last week about Mara and just his ability as a passer. Like, these guys tower over everybody, and they're no longer just hurling the ball into the crowd. Like, these guys can make pocket passes because they grew up, like a Wembanyama, idolizing these quicker, sharp-shooting guards. And now we're seeing the end game here at the highest level. So to me, that's the new, keep your eye on who's bringing in the skilled big man, because I think about the Big 12, Mo Krivas is 7'2". He's got the size, but he's 260 pounds, and he's not a ball-handling big. He's not a shooter. Teams sag off of him. He's more your traditional post player. And then the lack of height from Koa Pete and Tobe Awaka was on display in this game. I think about a JT Toppin at Texas Tech, but he's 6'8", 6'9". Think about a JoJo Tugler at Houston, 6'7", 6'8". Now, Sanak is a guy that I could see kind of fitting that mold if he sticks around one more year. But who are these Big 12 teams that are going to identify that and go after those the new era of 7-footers, the new age 7-footers, if you will?
Well, and look, I think Toppin fits this category too. And he's not 7'6",
but he's got 7'6" wingspan, right?
Right, and he also is a very elite passer, right? Like, I think if you're going to be a modern big, if you will, you've got to be able to pass. That's a crucial part of this, which is, again, something that you've just pointed out is not very common. The other thing I'll add is, and certainly anytime a team wins a championship, and we'll see if Michigan's able to pull it off tonight. But one of the things that was pointed out was from a guy named Pete Newman on Twitter. He's the chief operating officer of College Basketball Analytics. And he points out the win share total between two guys that Michigan added in the portal. That's Mara and Morez Johnson. Mara, 7'3" sophomore, came from UCLA. Morez Johnson, 6'9" freshman, came from Illinois. Both landed in the top 5 among all high major transfers nationally in production rate in talking about win shares. And obviously both went to Michigan. Both were underutilized at their previous stops, and both became hugely impactful players in the front court for this Michigan team that could win a national championship. So the idea of win shares might be a way for teams to identify players that are maybe underutilized or being under-recruited in the portal, because they may not have the minutes per game, they may not have the average scoring numbers per game, or if you're just looking, kind of doing like the surface level test, you may think that guy's not as good as he is. And one of the things that Peter Newman identified in this is basically look at the win share total for those two guys. They were totally under-identified in the transfer portal.
Yep. And Johnson's a great example, Morez Johnson, who's a legit 6'10". He averaged 13 points and 7 rebounds this season. What he averaged, I think at Illinois, he was less than 10 per game, maybe around 10. But that's a guy that on any given night could go out and get you 20 or 25. And that's what I was talking about off the top. Sometimes we overanalyze the numbers, and then you see these guys on the floor, and you're like, okay, he's longer-armed, he's altering shots, things that don't show up in the box score. Elliot Cadeau, his foot speed and just how quick he can get from one end of the floor to the other does not show up in a box score. How well he can navigate traffic doesn't show up in a box score. Just his ball handling skills, all these things that were on display in the Final Four, is that team was just super talented, more so than what their stats would say, right?
Right, and I mean, win shares, again, is sort of an important metric that is a catch-all. Basically, how much do you contribute to winning? And, you know, again, it strips down the per-game average that may, you know, de-escalate some of these players in terms of their impact that they could have. So it's always been an important metric to look at because it's an apples-to-apples comparison for players, even if they don't play the same amount of minutes, but show that they may have the same or even greater impact in a game.
And this isn't the first year that Dusty May has hunted for a skilled big man. Like they had this last year too, when they had a major uptick from a team that was 8-24 just 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Like we noted that Todd Golden has put a major emphasis on scoring in the paint. Well, Dusty May isn't necessarily concerned about scoring in the paint, which Michigan does plenty of. He identified a big man factory, like Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden last year, nicknamed Area 51, 6'11", point guard skills, passing, playmaking, two-way versatility. One of them's in the NBA, and they replaced those guys with Mara, who at UCLA was like a 9-10 point per game guy, 6 rebounds. But, man, his skill set was really impressive.
Yeah. And
7'3".
Well, and I think what you just said is really important to note here. The fact that Golden and Wolf, I mean, when this season started for Michigan, you know, there were major question marks. I mean, they brought in a UAB transfer who had, you know, not a great reputation in terms of work ethic. You bring in Mara and Johnson, another, you know, 2 other bigs that, again, reputationally were not like huge adds in the portal. So we talk about this every year when it comes to basketball in the portal. Like, you got to not only find the right guys, but you've got to have a plan. And I think it's obvious that May has a plan and a profile of the players that he's looking for in the portal.
Do you have the win shares graphic pulled up? I saw the same thing last night. I was just curious if any Big 12 guys were on it coming into this year, because I first thing that jumped out to me was the same thing. Johnson's way up there, Mara's way up there, guys that do more than what their box score stat capsule says.
So Keanu Dawes was 3rd on that list from Utah. Flory Bidunga is 7th on that list. And Darion Williams, surprisingly, 14th on that list. And then Josh Ojonwuna from Baylor last year was 15th on that list.
So, yeah, you've got some dudes. I mean, Darion Williams, that's how I would describe his game 2 years ago. All right, coming up next, we'll preview the national championship and what is the best job in college basketball. We know what job it's not. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. We're powered by Modelo. This is Big 12 Radio.
Don't forget, BYU Villanova. We'll get our first look at A.J. DeBonsa as Koa Pete on the receiving end.
Execution on that possession from Florida.
Xavier Lee hits his second 3 of the night. Oh! Koa Pete from the rafters!
What a pass and delivery against Condon.
Here comes Bradley. Bradley gives it to Pete. Pete, look out below! One highlight after another! Mr. Arizona has arrived at the collegiate level.
Utah steal, then they throw it right back to the Wildcats. NASCAR tempo, a lob, and Pete brings the house down.
Senior out of Rickards High School, Tallahassee, that venerable program. Pete the screen for Karchenkov, and they'll play it together for 2 and a foul. Rebound pawed down by Privas. On the hit ahead, Pete. Duck.
Woo-hoo! How about the outlet pass? Here's the end of the play.
Johnson will. Yeah, he will. And he hit the backboard.
Numbers here.
Burries flanked by Pete and a hammer.
Bringing it all. The Chandeliers as well. They can be explosive.
And look at his work on Mo Krivas down low.
A lob. Oh, watch out. High above the rim.
Bradley trying to find one of his bigs. He gets it to Pete. Pete off balance. Fires! Oh, what a shot.
Back here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Powered by Modelo on a March Madness Monday, getting you set for the national championship game that will feature UConn and Michigan tonight. No Arizona, No Illinois. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. We've got the coach, Norm Roberts, coming up here in about 15 minutes. He's been joining us all season long. It was great to see him at the Final Four. Also, what is the best job in men's basketball? And where does North Carolina rank? Because Tommy Lloyd said no. Dusty May has said no. Billy Donovan, who they've zeroed in on, I guess they're waiting till maybe the NBA season is over, if that's going to be their next coach. But, like, if it's not Donovan, then you're going way down the list of potential candidates.
Right. No, I mean, so this is a list that was put together by The Athletic, and the Athletic put together a similar list a few years back, and it's, shown different results. The gist of it is they surveyed 51 current coaches, and both head coaches and assistant coaches, asking them to rank their top 5 jobs in men's basketball, preferably after setting aside their own personal ties. And, the results show that the number 1 job in America is Duke, with the number 2 job in America being North Carolina, in a tie with Kentucky. Kansas would be 4th. Now, what's interesting is what you mentioned, and that is, should North Carolina be 2 when they're 0 for 2 and their first top 2 guys?
Right.
It's a weird deal to be considered the second best job in America and have 2 coaches from 2 programs that are not on this list not take those jobs.
Totally. And where's Todd Golden? I haven't heard his name mentioned at all as of late.
But Arizona's 10th on the list. Michigan is somewhere on this list. Arizona's 6th on this list. Michigan is 7th, and yet despite that, neither of their coaches were willing to leave for the second best job in America, according to this. So it shows the sort of flaws that exist, and I think the reality of that is that you can't really figure out what the best job in America is because it's different to all kinds of different people. For John Shire, who went to Duke and played under Coach K, there's no job in America that's better than Duke. I'm sure that there are other coaches that feel that way, but would Dusty May have left Michigan for Duke if the Duke job were open this year? How about Kansas? Bill Self viewed Kansas in a way that maybe not the same other coaches did. He had some experience at Kansas. It was in his contract with Illinois that the only job he would leave for would be Kansas. That was a job that was very specific to him. It was the best job to Bill Self in America, right? So we could sit here and talk to all coaches and have them rank, but yeah, I think if this cycle is any indication, when I think of this is the best job in America, I think of a willingness for other coaches to leave that job, one job, to go to that job, and what we've seen is that's not the case.
Mm-hmm. And to me, the NIL era has leveled the playing field at the top. It's widened the gap between the power conferences and the mid-majors and the old Cinderellas. But I think at the top, it has brought more parity to college basketball because now, where does that factor in terms of the best jobs in America? Does that mean more than prestige or conference or anything else? And like you look at the Big 12, BYU spent $13 million on their roster. It was the second most expensive roster in college basketball. Now, most of that surrounded A.J. DeBonta, the number 1 player in the country. But now for next year, does Kevin Young rebuild around another superstar? What are they spending on Bruce Branch III? Or does he spread that money differently? Kansas is going to have basically a blank check. They're expected to have a top 5 spend when it comes to the transfer portal, which opens tomorrow, by the way. Tomorrow is going to be a big day. KU had...
Weird. They'd wait till after the national championship to open up the portal.
Wait, after the season?
Yeah.
Not right in the middle?
Yeah, no. Right, yeah.
Conference play or right at the beginning of the NCAA tournament?
Weird. No idea why they do that in football, but that makes way more sense in basketball.
And Texas Tech, their roster was valued at $10.5 million, which was one of the most expensive rosters in the country, but it was kind of spread throughout. They didn't have this DeBonta level contractor, Darren Peterson. So with the portal opening tomorrow, what is the best job in America? Texas is number 8 on this list because even though you're the 5th most important sport at that school, you have the budget, right? So it's just fascinating to me kind of where these programs rank in terms of direct comparison to how much NIL money they're spending. And then I think coach as much as anything else is about fit. Like, was Mark Pope a great fit at Kentucky? He had the $22 million roster this year, and they couldn't get past the second round of the NCAA tournament. Now he's under the gun. What'd they quote? Another coach anonymously spoke about him specifically, and they're like, I wouldn't want that job. All the money in the world, but, like, the dude's only in his second year, and they want him out.
Well, and BYU is a great example here because Mark Pope's dream job would, of course, be Kentucky, where he played. Kevin Young's not leaving BYU for Kentucky, right? I mean, he's got a connection to the church, and and feels as though his place as basketball coach is a higher purpose at BYU. Would he leave BYU for an NBA job? Maybe, I don't know, but I could certainly not see a situation in which Kevin Young would leave for another college job. So, like, that's his best job. Going back when Chris Beard left Texas Tech, that shouldn't be an affront on Texas Tech. He went to Texas. He is a Texas grad. So he might view the Texas job way better. Grant McCasland, who did not go to Texas, may not view that in the same way and may view the Texas Tech job as his best job. Maybe he would leave and go to Kansas, right? So, like, again, it's so coach dependent that, like, every coach has different motivations and reasons for why one job would be better than the other. I get why you rank this, and you can talk to coaches, and they can sit there and whatever job they have and think, like, man, if I had the resources of Duke or had this or that or the other. But if we're looking at the top of the sport, there are a lot of guys that wouldn't leave their current jobs for any of these jobs, and I think we have the best example of it by what's happened. I also think you're North Carolina. You're crazy if you're not looking at Grant McCasland.
Grant McCasland, Ben McCollum at Iowa. There's a lot of coaches that really haven't been mentioned much that I think would be slam dunk hires. Now, there's a list that speculates that there's 24 college basketball programs that are expected to spend $10 or more million. North Carolina's on there, but also is Kansas, Arizona, Cincinnati, BYU. And then you've got programs like DePaul expected to spend, like, some Big East teams that you wouldn't necessarily expect to be on this list as the Big East tries to make a comeback. In terms of the game tonight, UConn and Michigan, who do you like? Who do you like tonight? Michigan opens as a 6.5-point favorite for the national championship.
Yeah, and I mean, look, Michigan looks every bit the best team in the country, playing at the best level right now. The fact that they were blowing out Arizona and doing defensively to Arizona what they were able to do in the first half, limiting them to just 32 points without Yaxel Lenenborg, says a lot, right? I mean, when we looked at that matchup, like, Lenenborg was the top, and if you would have told me that he was going to miss basically the entire first half, I would have said, wow, I bet Arizona blows him out. It went the exact opposite way. So, it's hard to think of a situation in which Michigan doesn't win. Now, with that being said, Danny Hurley's playing in a third national championship game in 4 years. He's a wizard. They probably shouldn't have won the Illinois game, and yet they did. They've got really good three-point shooting. They've got Terrace Reed, who's, again, playing on a different level right now, a historic level. So if I were betting on this game, I'd probably take UConn plus 6.5 with Michigan to win it outright, but I also said in the pregame show we did before the Michigan-Arizona game that there are only two potential outcomes here: Michigan close or Arizona close. Right. So I was clearly very wrong and off about that. So, like, my first thought was Michigan wins and probably wins big, and then my second thought was I should fade myself.
We've got to eat a little crow. I loved the thread that we had going during the game about all the things we were wrong about.
And there were a lot.
An absolute bloodbath. Elliot Cadeau's going to be in foul trouble. Turnover machine. Polar opposite on both sides. Like, Michigan was beating Arizona with finesse and excellent passing. Cadeau maybe picked up, one foul for the game. It was Jaden Bradley who had 3 fouls at halftime. Should Big 12 Nation care who wins tonight? Is one better than the other? Should we be pulling for Michigan because they took out Arizona?
I mean, it's really hard to ever root for Michigan. My favorite saying about Michigan is you can tell a Michigan fan because they tell you within 5 minutes of meeting them that they went to Michigan, which is great pride in your university, but also probably a level of arrogance, I would say. Now,
should we be pulling for UConn because this is it's another title? And UConn's been rumored, not sure if this is anything, but was it last offseason, maybe 2 years ago, when the UConn to the Big 12 momentum was starting to pick up? And UConn football is bad because they don't have the finances. They don't have the finances because they're an independent. Like there's two sides of the spectrum there when it comes to UConn football.
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue, and look, if UConn wins another title, like the idea that doesn't make them more attractive to the conference, like of course it does, and especially a conference that wants to lean into basketball. The problem is, if you add UConn, you're not just adding UConn basketball. If this were Gonzaga, it's probably a much easier conversation because they don't have football. But with UConn, no, I don't think you add them yet because unless you can only add them in basketball. And maybe that's something they'd be willing to do. The problem is it's like so much of the TV revenue from a pie standpoint is split up for football. So would UConn be incentivized to leave the Big East with all the allegiances they have there and the regional, rivalries they have? Would there be enough of an incentive financially to leave? And I would say no. No, not even close. The only financial incentive they'd have to leave would be if they offered UConn the opportunity to join as football. But that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So we're kind of at an impasse, which is why the reason that UConn has not joined the conference. Now, we've talked a lot about this, but it looks like by 2030, the ACC should be imploding, and there's the potential for the Big 12 to add some teams there. That may be the time in which you add UConn. That may be the time in which you add Gonzaga in basketball. I think there is very much a lean further into we are a basketball league, and adding those two programs would obviously help to solidify that. It just feels like the timing of that is not right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Tonight's game, the first thing to keep an eye on as you're watching is tempo. Michigan's top 20 in the country in tempo. UConn's 319th. UConn wants a half-court game, grind you out, get to the foul line, points in the paint. 21 of UConn's games this season were played at 65 possessions or fewer. That is a historic number. They are this year's version of Houston or Virginia. They can also shoot the basketball. So you like UConn with the points, but straight up.
Yes. Now, Will Cotterly, our producer, wrote basically a novel on the whiteboard.
Let's get another look at that, Will.
No. Why don't you just say it?
Okay. Root for UConn. So Big 12 over Big 10 in titles. Reed is a St. Louis native, went to Chaminade, the same high school as Jason Tatum. Yes. Then
why don't you just let Will make his own point?
Yeah, Will, go ahead. There's a lot of fine print on that board.
Why should we be rooting for UConn, Will?
So root for UConn because then the Big 10 title drought continues and the Big 12 will still have a more recent title than them.
I like that.
And the other stuff was just notes I had when you guys were talking.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the other one was just the time.
You were maximizing the space on that whiteboard.
Yeah. No, that's I don't know if I agree with that, though, because the Big Ten would have won their first championship in 26 years, but the Big East would be working on a fifth.
Yeah.
2 Nova.
3 UConn.
Yeah.
Like, this is insane.
That's a level of dominance that I'm uncomfortable with.
It's insane. Nobody's done it. This is more dominant than Villanova's run, more dominant than any of the Duke runs. Like, we are getting into UCLA back in the day territory. 3 of the last 4. Be nuts. All right, coming up next, the coach, Norm Roberts, longtime assistant at KU, former St. John's head coach. He's been with us every week here on Big 12 Today. He'll break down the Final Four and what happened with Arizona and Michigan after this. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Jaden Bradley guarded by Boogie Fland. Fland is a good defender. Up and over. Chenyelu goes Bradley.
Rest of our fabulous TNT Sports crew here from Tucson, Arizona.
Just vicious. In the non-conference play, he's obviously almost always guaranteed to give you 10 and 10.
Bradley with the block there, went the other way, but they didn't have the ball. That's going to be out of bounds.
David Punch. That tough shot, challenge Krivas, you talked about it earlier.
Yep.
The effect, even though he doesn't get a block shot, Fran, he clearly changed. That one is back to the other end. Jaden Bradley, chance for 4.
Roy pulls off target from deep, buries the rebound. Karchenkov in transition. Bradley, look out!
But I think Kingston Clemens is the sole reason as to why.
Pachucas threw it right away to Bradley all alone.
Del Orso, three.
Tough one.
Oh, Karchenkov, what a save.
Nice.
Great look. Del Orso from Bradley.
Remember, it's not just the first shot, it's the offensive rebound. Bradley trying to do it himself. Oh. He does! He hit it!
This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. Big 12 Radio exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios each and every weekday, 8A to 11A Eastern Time. And a guy that's been with us all throughout the college basketball season is the coach, Norm Roberts. Norm, being at the Final Four, it was disappointing for Arizona to lose in the manner that they did. We can break down all the stats and all the data points, but from your coaching seat, as a guy that coached as many years as you have and did, what were the things that stood out most to you?
I think the thing that stood out most was Michigan came out with such great energy defensively, offensively. I mean, they were aggressive from minute one. And I thought that Arizona came out like trying to get into the game and trying to get into a flow, but they were kind of passive. I thought they were passive. And then once that happened, I thought Michigan, and they shot it well, really, really, really attacked them and had them on their heels the whole time. And then it happens sometimes. Freshmen play like freshmen. And both of those two guys, Coa Pete and Burries, have been so great all year. They weren't themselves in that game. And then once they lost Jaden Bradley to the fouls and his aggressiveness changed, it really hurt their team.
Yeah, and I mean, do you think that there were just some nerves, maybe, especially from the freshmen, that sort of led to what you mentioned in terms of the beginning of this game?
It could be. The one thing is, no one can really prepare you for that moment. I mean, when you run into that stadium and there's 70, 75,000 people out there, you're playing on a stage. Yeah, you had shoot around, you had practices in there. It's not the same when the energy is really there. And sometimes it takes you a little while to get into it, but the team that's the most aggressive right away is usually the team that's going to come out on top.
Norm, is that almost a kind of a helpless feeling from the sideline? Like, if you're Tommy Lloyd, what could you do in a situation like that where your guys are trying to ease in and the other team's just full throttle?
I think it is tough, and I've been in that situation. We played Villanova in 2018, and they were a juggernaut. They were a juggernaut with Brunson and Miles Bridges, Bridges and Mikal Bridges and those guys. They had an unbelievable team, and they started off the game making their first 6 out of 7 threes. And once that happens, you tend to say, "Okay, we got to catch up." And then you get sped up. You maybe take some ill-advised shots, which then maybe lead out to runouts and helps them continue to take the lead. And I think that's kind of what happened to Arizona. Michigan got off to such a great start. They were always playing catch-up and never could catch their rhythm.
Yeah, there were definitely some elements of that 2018 Final Four where, Nova was just absolutely blitzing KU, and then Michigan in the national title game, en route to a national championship for Nova. So that's a great comp. And yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, I think when shots go down and really good offense is being run, it really puts the screws on you to be perfect. And Arizona is far from perfect. What about takeaways from a roster building standpoint here, Coach? I mean, obviously you look for blueprints in national title winners. We talked about some of the freshmen, looking like freshmen. I mean, is this a good note about how you should build rosters in terms of the portal versus recruitment and that stuff?
Well, I think everybody wants to build a roster where you want to have some really talented freshmen that can help you. And then you want to put pieces around them that are every bit as talented. And if you can get the right mixture of size, athleticism, obviously skill, shooting ability, and let's give Michigan all the credit in the world. They did it. They did an unbelievable job of putting together a roster. And I think the thing that helped Michigan is they played with 2 bigs the year before, and it really worked out well for them. And they had a very good season. So I think Dusty May was like, hey, let's do this again, and we can add more skill and more size and more athleticism with Marez Johnson and Mara, and then obviously Lindenborg, who's, he can play anywhere on the floor. He can play the point, he can play the 4. It doesn't matter. So I think he put together a great roster. But what he also had was some great returners. And Burnett coming back, and, he gives him Roddy Gale, gives him that, the kid Chester, does a great job for them too. So they had great role players from the year past coming back that could instill their culture and everything. And then you add in a Trey McKinney as a freshman who was terrific. I mean, he really shot the ball well and gave them great energy. And then the kid, LJ Kaysen, who's not playing, he's been great for them all year. So Dusty May did an unbelievable job in roster creation and construction.
So Arizona has 2 top 30 players coming in. They've got a 5-star top 3 prospect in Caleb Holt, who was really fun to watch in the McDonald's All-American game. But then they're going to have a lot of roster turnover next season. If you're Tommy Lloyd, what are the spots you're identifying where, hey, we have to get a little bit better in this area?
Well, it really depends. Now, do they keep Krivas, which may be hard to do? He's had a terrific year. He may have a chance to go. But if they return him, that's an unbelievable piece to have back as far as size. But I think Tommy is going to do the same thing. He's going to look for athleticism, size. He played 2 bigs. They've always played 2 bigs at Gonzaga and everything. So I think he feels comfortable in that way. And then he's always done a great job, and I think more schools are going to do this, is look toward the foreign market and bringing in some of the foreign players. Because when you bring in those players, some of them obviously are older. They played against men. They played in kind of a pro-type system where they're treated as pros. They have to act as pros, at least from the monetary standpoint, all those things. So it may be a little bit easier transition for them. And, obviously it worked really well for Illinois. It's worked well for Arizona. And it's worked well in some ways for Michigan. So I think people are going to look toward the foreign market as far as size and skill to help their rosters quickly.
We're talking with former coach Norm Roberts, does great work right now with ESPN Field of 68, and he's joined us throughout the basketball season. All right, how do you think tonight goes? Do you think Michigan blows through and wins the first championship for the Big Ten since 2000?
I don't think they blow through it. The key is going to be, can UConn defend and not allow them to get off making open threes? Now, they have really, really shot the ball well, Michigan. And if UConn can keep them from doing that, make it more of a half-court game. I thought UConn did an unbelievable job with their guards rebounding against Illinois. Illinois was one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the country. And Michigan's a great one too. But their guards, Silas and those Mullins, all those guards did a great job of rebounding. Solo ball. So they helped the big guys out, keeping the other bigs off the glass. So if they do a good job of rebounding, and then obviously UConn's got to make shots. Mullins, Ball, Carabon didn't. I think Carabon was 1 for 8 in the game. He's got to shoot the ball well, because that's going to be important for them.
Norma, on social media, there's been a lot made about Dusty May putting basketball goals in the big house and having the players shoot threes in that environment to try to prepare for playing in an NFL stadium. And then the backboard passes that go down as missed field goals for Elliot Cadeau were actually passes tomorrow over the top. Just what are your thoughts on those two things? Is that being overblown on social media? Are coaches always looking for angles in that way, or is it truly as creative as everybody's making it out to be?
I think it is creative. I think it is creative. But I would also tell you this. You can put goals in a football stadium, all that shooting and everything. That doesn't compare to 75,000 people in the stadium. It doesn't compare to that. But I think it was creative. It maybe made their guys relax, maybe feel a little bit more comfortable, because it is a different situation. You are up on the stage when you're playing in that Final Four and everything. So I think it was a smart move. Even if it was just from a mental standpoint, it was a smart move by Dusty May and his staff.
What does this mean, big picture, Big 12? One of the things we've talked about is in the history of the Big 12, the Final Four national championships doesn't compare as favorably to some of these conferences, but when you zero in on the last decade, it looks a lot better, and especially going back to 2019, the Big 12 has now had, going back to 2019, is it 5 appearances with 4 different teams in the Final Four. I guess it'd be 4 appearances because that does not include 18, which we were talking about. So, but you've got Tech in 19 getting to the national championship game. Kansas in 22, Baylor in 21, Houston last year, and then another Final Four appearance for Arizona. So, long-winded, Coach, but big picture, Big 12 takeaways here.
It just means it's a great conference. It is. It's always been a great conference. You forget we had a great team in 20 at Kansas.
Right.
That would have had a definite chance to be there too, and then COVID hit. So it's always going to be great basketball in the Big 12. You got tremendous coaches. Obviously, you're going to have tremendous talent playing in the league, and I would think they're going to have another team in there again. And you know what it is that makes it even better is that there's different teams from the conference, not just one. So it just shows you how strong it is, how strong the coaching is, and how strong the talent is in that conference. People want to play in the Big 12.
Norm Roberts, Coach, just want to say how much we appreciate your time all season long. You've been with us like every week on the program. It's been really insightful to kind of get a peek behind the curtain, all the stories you've told about your coaching days and just that coaching perspective. So thank you from all of us here at Big 12 Radio.
Appreciate you guys. Enjoy the time off and look forward to maybe doing some of that again next year.
All right.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
Storm Roberts, longtime assistant at KU, brought up that 2020 team that would have been my pick to win the national championship that year that the tournament got canceled. I think the other 1 seeds would have been Dayton and Florida State and one other in the mix, but that KU team was loaded. Norm Roberts joining us during the basketball season here on Big 12 Radio all year long. Coming up next, we pivot back to our Modelo Spring Road Trip. We are touring Big 12 country, and we wrap up our series talking Colorado Buffaloes football after this. He's Ari, I'm James. This is Big 12 Radio.
Pete out high, one-on-one. Backdoor bounce and a scoop for Del Orso. Reverse layup makes it 22.
Little step and go, big-time delivery.
Haggerty had it taken away. It's a run out the other direction. And a slam the hammer from Karchenkov.
Now, this is the problem when you play this team. It made something out of nothing.
Ivan Karchenkov works the baseline.
Oh, man. He's another one of those freshmen. They play 4 freshmen.
Pretty clear Arizona State defensively trying to pack the lane and dare Arizona to beat him from the outside. But Karchenkov, the freshman, says no.
35 and 33 minutes. Getting back to full health.
This is a great time.
Karchenkov off the turnover.
What they want to do is just get out quicker from those elbows and blocks to get to a shooter.
Bradley to a cutting Karchenkov. Taken away by Karchenkov. Karchenkov answers.
Second half are on a pair of threes from Chase McCarty. Karchenkov will try one and hit it. Well, you give up a three, just go on the other end and get it back. Chris Sinek Jr. really moving his feet to stay in front of Karchenkov. Burries can't get by Flemings. Karchenkov banks home a three. Are you kidding me?
Back inside Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo. We've got Will Connerly producing on the audio side today. We've got Anthony Smith behind the scenes on the video side. He's Ari. I'm James. Our Modelo Big 12 Spring Road Trip Series concludes today.
Ooh, concludes.
Concludes today. This is the last team. This is the last team?
Yeah.
Okay. Asking for a friend.
No, yeah. I was just drawing greater attention to the fact that we've slowly but surely ambled our way through all 16 teams in previewing and discussing the spring.
16 teams. Deep dive spring preview of each and every Big 12 member. So Colorado last year was a disaster. They went 3-9. The departures of Shedeur, Travis Hunter, kind of exposed Colorado in some way. Their overall record under Dion is now 16-21 with one bowl game in 3 years. Bill Connolly's got Colorado 65th in the country in his SP Plus rankings coming into this season. That's second to last in the Big 12. But if we're looking for optimism, coaching changes, new offensive coordinator, Julian Lewis is back at quarterback. It's probably where I start. Where do you start?
Well, number one, that Deion Sanders is not dealing with cancer and having to have a bladder made for him after having his removed. You know, Deion Sanders was removed from the program last year for health reasons. And, you know, so I think it's significant to have your coach fully healthy, fully engaged. And that's where it is. I mean, this offseason, Sanders has been healthy and active and every facet of the program. He's been available. So I think Coach Prime should have a major impact on Colorado's ability to mesh in spring camp and beyond. But he's just been more hands-on, which is huge. And then, yeah, the new coordinators. So Brennan Marion steps in as the new OC. He's hired from Sacramento State, where he served for 1 year as the head coach. They're going to run an up-tempo, go-go offense. And then on defense, I think, you know, one of the more underappreciated parts was that Robert Livingston left to go run as the Denver Broncos passing game coordinator, so doesn't have to move very far. He moves from Boulder to Denver to take over as the passing game coordinator and secondary coach under Sean Payton. Chris Marv steps in, who's, you know, was the defensive coordinator at Virginia Tech from 22 to 24 and brings 6 seasons of run game coordinator experience at the Power 4 level. So I start there. You know, some renewed optimism based on the coaching staff. The fact that Deion's been with them this offseason, and, you know, I'm excited to see what Brennan Marion and Chris Marv bring in terms of the new coordinators.
The offense is going to look very different. This is the go-go offense. It's very spacing-based, tempo, a lot of read option stuff, a lot of RPOs. But Colorado had a top 5 departure list nationally. I mean, a ton of guys left. Omarion Miller's now at Arizona State. Jordan Seaton, the offensive lineman, transfers to LSU. Defensively, they lose their starting safety. They lose Otis, who was last year's top portal ad, the defensive lineman from Alabama. And then both Miller receivers have departed. Omarion and Draylon Miller both gone. But Julian Lewis comes back. They've got Michael Welch back at running back. They bring back Larry Johnson, the offensive lineman who started every game last year. And then 43 incoming transfers. 21st ranked class, number 4 in the Big 12, according to Sports Illustrated. They add DeAndre Moore Jr., their top-rated acquisition, the receiver from Texas. They bring in Danny Scudero, who led the nation in receiving yards last year at San Jose State. Then they add a running back who was the backup at Indiana last year. They've added a ton of guys on the offensive line. But this is the 3rd year in a row that it's been a complete makeshift overhaul of the offensive line. Is this the year that it sticks?
Well, and for me, I'm with you in terms of, like, I think let's start with the optimistic side of things, which is, you know, they bring in 2 big-time wide receivers in DeAndre Moore from Texas, who was, you know, one of the most impactful receivers at Texas over the last couple of years, and then Scudero, who, to your point, went from Sac State to San Jose State, and in one season was, you know, led the nation in receiving yards at 1,291 and 10 touchdowns. So, big-time addition. I think they're linebackers. I love the addition of Gideon Lamprin, who comes over from, you know, Bowling Green. He was also at Dayton, so he's kind of a max superstar. He was 16th in the country in 2025 in total tackles, 119, 65 unassisted, and rated among the portal's best linebackers. And then Leona Lifau, the linebacker from Texas, who is a 4-star linebacker, coming out of high school. 139 total tackles between 23 and 25 at Texas. In 25, he had 68 tackles, finished with a 76.4 PFF run defense grade, and has had 23 consecutive starts at Texas. So, for me, aside from the questions in the offensive and defensive lines, James, I'm most optimistic about what they've done in bringing Julian Lewis back, and then at the wide receiver position, and then the linebacker position. But, yeah, there are legitimate questions along both lines. Now, defensive tackle is interesting. Ezra Christensen comes in, who is on his fourth school, Mesa College, Fresno State, the New Mexico State. But he's the highest defensive tackle grade in the country last year at 88.6 via Pro Football Focus, and was an All-American honorable mention last year.
So the linebacker from Bowling Green, this is a wild story. First of all, his middle name is ESPN, and that's not even the lead here. Okay, his middle name is ESPN. He is Gideon ESPN Lamprin. His Twitter handle is ESPN Gideon. His dad was just obsessed with SportsCenter. There's no there's nothing more than that. Okay, but then the story about how he landed at Colorado. So he walked past Deion Sanders on an airplane. This is a true story, verified from 24/7 Sports. Okay. He's on the same flight as Deion. He walks past him on an airplane, and he said, "Coach Prime, I'm in the portal, and I can play." Coach Prime immediately called his director of player personnel to verify, got the confirmation that, hey, this is a dude, walked to the back of the plane and said, "Young man, talk to me. They say you got it. Are you ready to do this?" That's a direct quote.
I mean, how crazy is that? We hear of, players sending their tape to coaches.
Right.
But here's one of Coach, come get me. Okay, what's your name? I mean, and I'm sure if Deion was in his mind was who's this random kid on the plane that's oh no, this dude can play.
I think he's wearing a Bowling Green hoodie. Looks like he's probably a linebacker. Look him up. Oh, he had 120 tackles last year. I guess we'll take it. Nutty. You brought up the wide receivers. That might be Colorado's strength this year with the guys they've brought in. Will, let's play clip 11. Coach Prime, Deion Sanders on just how strong that Colorado wide receiver room is.
It's a much better room. Okay, it's a room that have accomplished a lot more. It's a room that is very unselfish. I love these young men. They blend together, but they got that thing about them, man, that they got it. Like they got that thing. They're not jealous of one another. They love the practice. They love the work. Joseph was out there talking junk on crutches. How you doing that? I said, Joseph, why are you talking junk on crutches, man? You gonna get hit out here. You're an easy target. He's like, Coach, that competitive spirit in me. But I like that. I love it. So that room, to me, is tremendously explosive. When we talk about what we lost, make sure you talk about what we gained. Because we gained a heck of a lot more. I think 3 times more than what we may have lost in the process. And I don't call it a loss. I call it life. This is new college life now. My man Jacker moved on up like the Jefferson.
So all the newcomers at Colorado, 43 transfers, their starting lineup last year was a revolving door. They had more injuries and were more impacted by injuries when it came to starters than anybody else in the Big 12, more so even than West Virginia, who played 5 different quarterbacks. They had a, whatever this number means, 0.46 starts consistency ratio. That was 129th in the country out of 134 teams. So it was truly just a hodgepodge of dudes last year.
Well, they add a center from Houston, Demetrius Hunter, tackle from Georgia, who we talked about and I think highlighted during our series, taking a look at the best transfer portal additions in Bo Hughley. And those are 2 guys that will probably start. They also have Taj White from Rutgers, Leon Bell from Cal, Javen Richardson from Missouri. So, yeah, I mean, look, they are going to have 5 brand-new starters on their offensive line. They didn't want to lose Jordan Seaton, but we just heard there from what Deion had to say about that, right? So they've got, I think, the talent to be good, but it's more than just talent. And they brought in, I think they're going to be fine in their running game because of this offense, which has been a huge issue for Dion at Colorado. They just have not had an effective running game. I think they're going to be very good in their running game because of this offense, because of Brennan Marion. I think, they've added at least two big-time additions to the portal wide receiver. We haven't even mentioned, another guy they added in the portal at wide receiver who could also become impactful player in Cam Perry from Miami of Ohio, 6'1", legitimate playmaker in 2025, held in 43 for 976 and 6 touchdowns, so averaged 22 yards per catch for Miami of Ohio last year. Plus, we talked about the two other guys in Scudero and DeAndre Moore. So, to me, their offense can be very explosive, but it's about solidifying what they have up front. That's the only question mark I have in their offense. I think their offense can be good. Lewis, with a year under his belt of experience, now a new offense that I think fits him really well, with a really good, a good running game that should complement him, and then the receivers they added. It's about their offensive line coming together.
We've talked a lot about Brennan Marion. He was the offensive coordinator at UNLV, and then he became the head coach at Sacramento State. He was the head coach at Sac State just last season. He is the new OC, and here's what Dion said about him operating that go-go offense.
Points per game. Everybody I interviewed, they averaged over 30 points per game. 30 points per game is our threshold. When we score 30 points per game, we win. When we don't, we lose. When we hold people under a certain number as well, we win. So that was huge. So everyone we brought in to interview, that was that. But I needed the toughness, that mentality.
Everybody they interviewed had to average over 30 points per game. Marion checked those boxes, and then it's the extra thing, the toughness. And, hey, it's a really unique offense that not a lot of teams are running.
Now, on the defensive side, Chris Marv steps in. Again, mentioned he's got experience most recently at 2024 as the Virginia Tech defensive coordinator. And he's going to mix in a lot more zone than what they had been playing. So that's one of the things they've been sort of working through in spring is much more of zone looks than some of the man-to-man stuff that they were running almost exclusively under Robert Livingston. And, again, bringing a ton to the portal. I mean, there's 55 new players they brought in. So it feels like this is, with the West Virginias, the UCFs of the world, right, when we go through and looked at these teams in spring and how many new faces they have, Arizona State, ton of new faces. This is not surprising in the Big 12. There are far more teams that have, let's say, 40 new players at least through the portal than don't. And, again, as we've seen, the Big 12 from a portal standpoint is sort of in the middle. You're going to lose guys to the SEC and the Big 10, but you're also going to gain guys from, as the MAC, the Conference USA, the American, right? We're seeing consistent grouping of players we're talking about that are big-time all-conference producers, at the group of 5, group of 6 level.
And with Colorado, you almost gloss over the returners because there's so few of them. But the guys that are coming back were on the field a ton. Like Julian Lewis got the last few starts. He's going to be much better as a true sophomore. Wide receiver Joseph Williams, who is probably their top incoming transfer last year from Tulsa, he's back. Him and Lewis have been working a ton this offseason, trying to establish that connection. He was also Colorado's second leading receiver last year. Now he's 4th on the depth chart, at least on paper, coming in. And then Micah Welch, the running back, who's kind of there between the tackles guy. And then defensively, they bring back Preston Hodge, who's been a defensive back who's been there several years and has been an all-league caliber guy. So Colorado, Bill Connolly identified them as one of the 4 teams that, the law of averages, everything's equal when it comes to turnovers and injuries and close wins and losses, luck, as one of the teams he identified as a major breakthrough candidate. That if they get a little luck on their side, they should be much improved this season. All right, coming up next year on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, we are chatting with Scott Proctor. Scott Proctor, Colorado Buffaloes reporter for Denver Buffs. He'll join us coming up next, part of our Modelo Big 12 Spring Preview Series, highlighting the Colorado Buffaloes today. This is Big 12 Radio.
Play through those post guys, screens, pick and roll, high-low, everything.
Burries tries. That's a 3, and it'll go. Brayden Burries.
Not a
Shot
mismatch.
clock under 10.
They have Pete if they want him.
Burry's step back. Gets another.
Never mind. Don't worry about Pete.
That Penn State game, obviously, it's surprising.
Oh, what a find. Burry's the stuff.
Pete makes plays now. He's done that a few times. Got to get away from him. Yep.
Bradley knew he had it. Just picked his pocket.
Nice pass.
Burry's the stuff, guard to guard.
About that. All set up by defense.
Bradley got tangled up in gridlock with Castillo, and he threads it through beautifully. Scintillating pass to Burry's.
Vision is extraordinary.
Just under 21 a game. One chipped away. Kana goes down to the floor. Loose ball. Krivas push up ahead. Burry throws it down.
Terrific play by the big fella.
Just kind of flung it up. No good. Burry draws the foul. Hits the shot. Prospects in this game. Karchenkov hustles and gets the rebound and finds Burry.
Oh my goodness.
Oh! What a dunk from the freshman guard.
Very talented freshman got space and put him on a poster. But this game
Concerned about complacency tonight. And they have gotten haymakers thrown at them. But there's Braden Burries giving Arizona the lead.
Our official home for the Big 12 Conference is Big 12 Radio here on TuneIn. You're watching us on Big 12 Studios with Ari Timken. I'm James Westling, and we welcome in Scott Proctor, Colorado Buffaloes reporter for Denver Buffs, to highlight the Colorado Buffaloes, part of our Modelo spring road trip touring Big 12 country. Scott, thanks for your time.
Appreciate you guys having me on. I'm excited to talk Buffs. I'm excited that, we got the national championship for basketball obviously tonight, but that's another sign that football is rapidly approaching, so I'm excited for that.
Well, take us through the biggest headline in your eyes so far in spring practice for Colorado football.
No doubt. I mean, it's a lot of new, right? And when you have the season that, Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffs had last year, going 3-9, only winning one game in the Big 12 slate, changes had to be made, and changes were made this offseason from the coaching staff to the roster. You have 2 new coordinators, and I think Brennan Marion, new offensive coordinator, is probably the story of the spring so far. This offense had to get better. It was vanilla last year. It was bottom 3 in terms of total yards, scoring offense in the conference, all of it. So Coach Prime brought in Brennan Marion, one of the most innovative young minds in college football over here recently, was the head coach at Sac State last year, was previously the offensive coordinator at UNLV. Has coached, at Texas, at Pitt, coached guys like Jordan Addison, Xavier Worthy. And what makes Brennan Marion so special is that he has created his own offense, innovated his own offense. It's called the Go-Go offense. It's very unique. It uses 2 running backs. 2 running backs most of the time are lined up on the same side of the quarterback. So it's very unique. It's a power run offense, has some triple option kind of aspects to it. And they take a lot of vertical deep shots. And with that in mind, this Colorado recruiting staff, particularly via the transfer portal with, 60 plus new players, 45 or so coming from the transfer portal, a lot of those guys on the offensive side of the ball fit what Brennan Marion wants to do. He wants to be a physical running style offense. It takes a lot of vertical shots, and that is going to be, I think, what determines how good this Colorado football team is this year. Can this go-go offense, along with redshirt freshman quarterback Julian Lewis, a former 5-star who got 2 starts in his true freshman season last year, how can he gel and kind of assimilate with this offense and Brennan Marion? Because he has a lot of weapons at his disposal. But if this young talented quarterback can click with this young offensive coordinator, this offense could be explosive, and at the very least, that should make for some very fun and interesting games, something that the Buffs didn't play a lot of last season.
Yeah, the other thing is the running game, and I do think the go-go offense will help the running game, but I mean, this has been really a difficult piece for Denver under Colorado, for the Buffs under Dion.
Yep.
They just have not had an effective ground game.
No, it hasn't. It's been virtually non-existent. This is going to be Coach Prime's 4th year coaching the Buffs. They still have yet to have a 100-yard rusher in a single game. Like, that is
Wow.
crazy to think about. Yeah, it's crazy to think about. We're going on year 4, still have yet to get that. But I think it's going to happen this year. And I think that's, again, a big reason why Brennan Marion was brought in, because, again, his offense is based on the running backs. Like, we've heard from running back coaches and, running backs this spring that this offense is kind of made for them. It's made for them, that position, to have success. So, they had a 1,200-yard rusher, I believe, last year at Sac State with Brennan Marion, again, calling the plays. They brought in 2 of their running backs from Sac State, one who, Damian Henderson, who had over 500 yards, 5 touchdowns. Another guy, Jaquil Smith from Sac State, who was a running back, had 500-plus yards as a true freshman. So they brought in 2 backs who know that go-go offense really well. They brought in Richard Young, a former 5-star from Alabama, a big physical running back. DeKalen Taylor, Michael Welcher, 2 guys returning from Colorado, who are very different styles. Mike is more of a physical guy. DeKalen had a season-ending injury about 3 weeks in, but he's more of the versatile kind of all-purpose, catch the ball in the backfield type of back who I think really fits this offense probably the best. So running game, yes, is going to be a top priority, because if they can't get that fixed in year 4 with this offensive coordinator, it might not ever get fixed under Coach Prime in Colorado.
Well, to have a good running game, you have to have a good offensive line. Has Colorado fixed that? And what's your take on the guys up front?
They've certainly tried to. I mean, as bad as last season was for Colorado, I think you would name a handful of things before you got to the offensive line being a big reason why. But they had to address it again, because obviously they lose their best offensive lineman to the portal, Jordan Sheeton, the former 5-star. is now at LSU. So this is going to most likely be a brand new starting five across the board. They've added a lot via the transfer portal. They added a really experienced center who was a 2-year starter at Houston the last couple of years, 24-game starter. So he's going to plug in right there at center and be really valuable for a young redshirt freshman quarterback in Julian Lewis. And, you know, they're going to piece it together from there. Another guy from Sac State who they brought over started every game for them last year, Jose Soto. Yo-Yo Atia, a guy who is a returner entering his third year with the program, is also looking like a guy to start the other center spot. And they got about 4 guys battling for, you know, those 2 tackle spots. Bo Hughley is kind of the front runner right now. He transferred in from Georgia. They got Leon Bell from Cal, Taj White from Rutgers. So they've got some competition, and all those guys have started or played a good amount of football at their respective previous spots. So, and another thing about the go-go offense, it was kind of built by Brennan Marion with it in mind that you might not always have the most talented offensive lines. So I think that was, like I said, that was kind of in mind when Brennan Marion was creating this offense, and I think it could really benefit what Colorado has going on this year, where they might not have the top-end talent at offensive line, but I think the scheme is going to help those guys out a lot and help them, you know, just bully guys in the run game and protect the quarterback, which they obviously have to do.
How much of a difference do you think makes, Scott, as well, that Dion was, you know, able to be healthy and with the team this offseason and you know, and now through spring, whereas last offseason he's dealing with bladder cancer and everything else?
Yeah, it's massive. It's massive, and I think that's a storyline that kind of gets forgotten when you talk about Colorado's season last year, right? Right after – it was literally right around this time last year that Coach Prime underwent surgery to kind of fix a bladder cancer issue that he was dealing with. It was right around the NFL draft, which, as we know, is about 2-3 weeks from now. It was right after spring ball, which is about to wrap up for Colorado this year. Again, they got the spring game this Saturday, April 11th. And let's not forget, too, right? This is the first year of just one portal window. Last year, right, you had the first winter portal window, and then after spring ball, you had the spring portal window. So there were, 20-plus guys being added to this roster, being evaluated and whatnot via the portal. And Coach Prime simply just wasn't really involved with that evaluation as he was battling, some serious health issues. So now this time around, he's healthy as far as we can tell. There's only one portal. So the team that they had right now is the team that they're going to have in the fall, unlike last year, unlike the last couple of years. So him being around is massive. We talked to a couple corners this offseason. They've said that Coach Prime is more hands-on, particularly with that room, than he's been in the last couple of years. So if you get a more motivated, healthy, more locked-in Coach Prime, certainly that's going to help everybody involved.
Did Julian Lewis, did he play in 4 or less games and retain his red shirt? And then my follow-up would be, you were talking about this go-go offense benefiting the offensive line. What does it mean for the quarterback position and decision-making and everything else that makes this offense go?
Yeah, Julian did preserve his red shirt last year. Just started the 2 games. I believe he played in 3. So, yeah, he would be a redshirt freshman here in 2026. And, yeah, this go-go offense, I mentioned some of the kind of concepts, the aspects. It is more of a running style offense, depending on how you look at it. And obviously Julian Lewis is more of your classical pocket passer, really natural thrower of the football. But if you go back to 2023, when Brennan Marion was the offensive coordinator at UNLV, and he was running the go-go offense there, they also had a freshman quarterback, Jaden Mayava, who's now the starting quarterback at USC. And he threw for over 3,000 yards, had a really good year, again, as a young quarterback. And that's kind of what I envision kind of the plan is for Juju. I think Juju has very similar talent. Obviously, Mayava is one of the top returning quarterbacks in college football this year, had a really solid year last year for the Trojans. And they have a similar game, and I can see kind of Brennan Marion tailoring this offense kind of similarly to Julian, like how he did to Mayava. Like, they're obviously going to get the deep pass concepts in, but a lot of it is going to just be based off of the run game, because this run game, with all the looks that it gives with the 2 running backs, it's going to give defenses a lot of fits and a lot of headaches. And as they focus on the run game, trying to limit that, it's going to open up so many opportunities down the field. And I think for the quarterback position in this offense particularly, it's just about quick decision making. I mean, that's where Julian thrives. He has a really high football IQ, and I think him and Brennan Marion are honestly going to be perfect for each other.
What does success look like this year, Scott?
Man, that's a wide-ranging question, and I think that would really all depend on who you ask. But you asked me, so for me, I think success after what we saw last year, and maybe this is a bit soft how you want to look at, but I think getting back to a bowl game, getting to a minimum of 6 wins, I think would be successful. Because again, you got to think about it. This is a brand new roster, coaching staff, 60+ new players. And your starting quarterback has started 2 games in his career, right? He's still a redshirt freshman. So if you can kind of get a base floor with him to build off of, get the 6 wins, and maybe, 2027 that turns into 8 or 9. And then maybe when Julian's a junior, you can really start to really build this thing out and go for gold, so to speak. But I think for this year in particular, with so much turnover in a conference that, again, still has Texas Tech and BYU looking like powers in that conference in particular. I think 6 wins would make a lot of Buff fans, I don't want to say happy, but I think they would be relieved to see that in the win column after what transpired a year ago.
Yeah, that's well said, and I think that's realistic. What would be the difference, though, between a 6-win season and, like you said, an 8 or 9 win breakthrough for Colorado?
That's a good question. I think we spent a lot of time talking about the offense, but I think the difference between a 6 and maybe an 8 or 9 win season is the defense getting back to maybe its 2024 form, which is a lot to ask because the 2024 defense had Travis Hunter and some other really talented ball players. But I think if the defense can create a lot of turnovers, that's something that Colorado struggled with last year in terms of the turnover margin. They were -2 for the season, which was about 10th in the Big 12. So if they can take care of the football more, which they should be able to do with Julian Lewis as opposed to the quarterback situation last year, and create more turnovers defensively, I think that could, help them steal a game or two that maybe on paper they shouldn't be able to.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Great stuff, man. Appreciate your insight. Scott Proctor, Colorado Buffs reporter for Denver Buffs. Thanks, Scott.
Appreciate the invite, guys.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Scott Proctor, a deep dive breakdown of Colorado football. Getting back to a bowl game would definitely be a win for Colorado. Again, I thought they'd be kind of a sleeper team last year. They weren't. They had a lot of unforeseen circumstances with injuries and the quarterback rotation and Dion, everything he went through this offseason. But I see why Colorado fans are hopeful that this could be a major turnaround.
Yeah, and, Scott there, I think, saying, 6 wins getting to a bowl game, maybe that's soft, but I agree with him. I mean, you're not going to go from where they were last year to 9-10 wins, competing for a Big 12 championship. I think this year is about, okay, they hit the reset. You're not totally hard resetting with, Julian Lewis, but you are in terms of the offense. This year is about establishing that and then potentially becoming a Big 12 championship contender in 2027. I think that's their most realistic viewpoint for Colorado. Best case scenario, they win 6-7 games, but you have a consistency along your offensive line. Your offense figures some things out, and then defensively, you start to see some things that make you optimistic about 2027.
Well said. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. That'll put a wrap on our Colorado Buffaloes Modelo spring road trip touring Big 12 country piece. We talked with Scott Proctor there, Colorado Buffaloes reporter for Denver Buffs. Coming up next, in case you missed it, the NCAA tournament is real close to expanding. The full details coming up to wrap up the show. He's Ari, I'm James. On a Monday, this is Big 12 Radio.
Don't forget BYU Villanova. We'll get our first look at A.J. DeBonsa as Koa Pete on the receiving end.
Execution on that possession from Florida.
Xavier Lee hits his second 3 of the night. Oh! Koa Pete from the rafters!
What a pass and delivery against Condon.
Here comes Bradley. Bradley gives it to Pete. Pete, look out below! One highlight after another! Mr. Arizona has arrived at the collegiate level.
Utah steal, then they throw it right back to the Wildcats. NASCAR tempo, a lob, and Pete brings the house down.
Senior out of Rickards High School, Tallahassee, that venerable program. Pete the screen for Karchenkov, and they'll play it together for 2 and a foul. Rebound pawed down by Krivas. On the hit ahead, Pete. Duck. Woo-hoo!
How about the outlet pass? Here's the end of the play.
Johnson will. Yeah, he will. And he hit the backboard.
Numbers here.
Burries flanked by Pete and a hammer.
Bringing it all. The chandeliers as well. They can be explosive.
And look at his work on Mo Krivas down low.
A lob. Oh, watch out. High above the rim.
Bradley trying to find one of his bigs. He gets it to Pete. Pete off balance. Fires! Oh, what a shot.
This is the final whistle. One final time here on a Modelo Monday Big 12 radio. This is Big 12 Today, watching us on Big 12 Studios. He's Ari, I'm James. Tomorrow, we launch our full court review. Modelo's Big 12 basketball, team recaps from the season. The portal also opens tomorrow. We'll start with the Utah Utes, and so a full breakdown of how the season went, where Utah might be looking in the portal to get better next year in what will be just year 2 for Alex Jensen and the Utah Utes. National championship game tonight. You can hear it courtesy of our friends at Westwood One right here on TuneIn. Radio, your official home for the Big 12. And then the NCAA, don't want to bury the lead here. The NCAA tournament is expanding. There's no way it's not. Ross Dellinger is reporting that this is basically a done deal. Going to 76 teams. Now, whether that starts next year in 2027 or the year after probably remains to be seen from everything I've read, but the NCAA tournament is going to be larger in the very near term, expanding from 68 to 76. So we'll start at 76, 24 teams will play, we'll get down to 52. Play-in games still in Dayton, one other site to be determined. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it there. It's inevitable. So you might as well just embrace it. And, and will this lead to more opportunities for the mid-majors? No. It will most likely lead to more opportunities for the big boys. And, so West Virginia, Auburn. West Virginia just won the Crown Championship. Auburn just won the NIT Championship. Those are two teams that would be playing in the NCAA tournament under these guidelines. So sort of is what it is. I'm more curious, though, for your overall thoughts on your trip to the Final Four. We haven't really shared any sort of tips from the road here.
My overarching big picture takeaway is that I'm not a huge fan of college basketball games being played in venues that were designed for punting. These NFL arenas, it felt so foreign. You said you've been to 6 Final Fours, right?
Yes.
Or was this number 7?
Yeah, this was 6.
And were they all in NFL stadiums?
Yes.
Okay, so you were used to it.
Sorry, the first one I went to is the 1999 National Championship game between UConn and Duke, which was at the Rays Stadium.
Okay.
Baseball stadium.
Baseball.
So that was in St. Petersburg, which I don't know that it's been back since then. And then the Alamo Dome, most recently last year, which is not technically a football stadium, I guess, but could certainly be classified in that.
Oh, yeah.
New Orleans, of course, absolutely is. Twice I've been there for the Final Four. And that is definitely a NFL venue. And then what's the other one? Yeah, San Antonio twice, actually. So 18 would have been San Antonio twice, New Orleans twice, Tampa, and Indianapolis.
70,000 plus people watching a basketball game just felt so foreign to me. The court is so much smaller than a football field. It's so much further away from where the fans are. And then the other thing, and like it's well documented, this isn't a secret that the floor is elevated, but I didn't realize how much it's elevated. Like I'm a good 6 foot even, and it felt like I was looking at these guys' heels, like the bottom of their sneakers. It is way up there.
Well, if you remember, there was a period of time where they actually held the Elite Eight, the Sweet 16 in football stadiums as well. And, so it's like, they went it was basically just the first weekend that was, in normal venues. They've since gone back to hosting those at basketball venues. The reality of the situation is the NCAA doesn't really have many ways to make money. The only cash cow that the NCAA has is the NCAA basketball tournament, and it is quite the cash cow. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to leverage that to maximize the amount of money and revenue that they can take in. I mean, the NCAA basically makes all of their revenue from the NCAA tournament. So they're going to have to maximize their take in terms of their ticket take, and then, of course, the television revenue.
Yeah, they generate approximately $1 billion per year just from the television piece.
And that funds the entire operation of the NCAA all year. So I get why they're trying to maximize the take. Does it lead to the best experience? No, absolutely not. I mean, this is a sport that's played at some of the best, most venerable buildings in the world for basketball. I would say there's Madison Square Garden, and then there's a bunch of college basketball arenas. And, those are the best places to watch basketball in the world. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, when you go from that to a football stadium, yeah, it's not great. I mean, even seats that are in a football stadium really good are horrible at a basketball game. But I can understand why it is the way that it is.
I feel the exact same way. Like, using binoculars to watch a free throw is not fun for anybody.
And I just can't imagine why people make the trip if you're not going to be sitting basically in the 200 section or lower. Like, I saw somebody said that they were in the 600 section, and like they showed me a picture, and it's like, why would you go?
Yes.
Why make the trip? So why spend the money to go? And I would much rather watch the game from my home or even from Cosm. Cosm would be a much better viewing experience.
And at one time I was on the floor, same exact vantage point as all the students that are on television a ton, all those students that are in the end zone. I mean, they call it end zone seating because it's in the end zone. For the students, you can't see anything. You're watching the game essentially on the big screen, on the Jumbotron. So it's an experience. Now, all the fan fest stuff outside the arena, us doing our show from the Arizona Team Hotel, all of that was awesome. Like, Indianapolis does a tremendous job. Even though Lucas Oil Stadium is not like in the heart of downtown, it's kind of off the beaten path, more in an industrial area, but they block off all the streets, and it is really cool from that standpoint, where it's almost like it'd be really cool for the family, everything except for the actual game.
Yeah, no, totally. Indianapolis is a great city. It's a great Final Four city. I mean, like, the Final Four when it's in Dallas, it's just not a great experience. Arlington has grown and is considerably better, but most people I think still stay in the downtown Dallas area and then have to commute from Dallas to Arlington. The fact that you have everything so close, it's very walkable, makes it for a great experience. And yeah, I mean, big thank you and shout out to Adam Lewis and Anthony Smith, our great colleagues at Big 12 Studios that helped to come to life on the video side of things. Thanks to Arizona and Nate with their PR department for everything they do for us all year, helping us get Jason Gardner on the show, the locker room stuff. That was all a part of our, want to bring Big 12 fans as close to the action as we can possibly be. And then, of course, thanks to TuneIn for making the investment, for sending us out, for spending the money to do that, because, previously Big 12 Radio would kind of defer to the more national publications when it came to covering and bringing that local flair. So, just fun to be working with TuneIn, with Big 12 Studios, and with the Big 12 in collaboration to make this all happen. It was a great experience. It was a lot of fun. It just sucks that we're not doing the show this morning from the Westin, as we expected to, had Arizona beaten Michigan.
Just the airport was flooded with Arizona fans.
Yeah.
And all felt the same way.
It was.
And it sucks to go home. Like, it sucks to go home when you think you have the best team in the country. There's no doubt about that. What I would tell a Big 12 basketball fan, if you're going to make an investment in a tournament game, to me this magnified, and we're incredibly grateful that we had the opportunity to go. We had locker room access, like things that we never would have had we stayed here in Dallas.
Right.
But to me, this whole experience really magnified the Big 12 tournament up in Kansas City, and everything that the Big 12 puts into making that a true 4-5 week-long event when it comes to the fan engagement, the arena, the Power and Light District right across the street, a billion hotels within walking distance. They do the same thing. They block off streets. There's a ton of family activities, and then there's not a bad seat in the house. That is the tournament to me that is top notch.
Yeah, no. Also, we've talked a little bit on the show about some of the observations on travel, and one of the things we talked about is the window seat versus the aisle seat.
Okay.
I know you were a big former window guy, former aisle guy, now window.
I'm open to the window. The window's I'm starting to like the window.
So let me just also say that in both trips there and back, I had to be relegated to a middle seat. But don't worry, I was king of the castle. The armrests were all mine.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Please. The armrest is not for the middle seat, unless I'm in the middle seat.
Okay.
But the big observation that I made was I think women are more likely to go for the window seat.
Really?
Men are more likely to go for the aisle seat. I think this goes back to major differences between women and men.
Okay.
Women are smarter. Full stop.
Yeah, no disagreement.
They're more thoughtful,
mm-hmm.
and they understand that you get more space with the window.
Yeah.
And you have more control over the window shade being open. I'm a big window shade open guy.
Really?
But in the middle, when a woman is next to you, closes that window shade, that's it. That's all she wrote.
You're a window shade open guy. I would nunchuck you. Nothing drives me crazier. Close that puppy.
Why?
You can have it open for takeoff and landing.
Why?
But once we get in the air, because the sun, the bright lights, I want to relax on my flight. I don't need to be blinded by all the reflections and the bright lights out that window. No, we close that bad boy.
It's work time. Yeah, no, and I like to occasionally look out the window and see what it looks like. I enjoy my time doing that. On the men's side, you want the aisle because it's the perception of control. I want to be in control of this whole thing. I was in the middle. I got up as much as I wanted. I got up and explored the space. There's no control. It's the perception of control. Again, women much smarter than men. So they have control over the window shade, much more significant control than the control over the aisle. And then, of course, you do get the extra space because of the wall there. So, just an observation that I made.
The middle's the worst, no doubt about that. But the other thing with the aisle is I feel a responsibility for the snack and drinks. Just what if the window person can't reach their drink? Then I've got to kind of navigate. Or there's 18 arms flying across my body. That makes me uncomfortable.
Right. Yep.
But you
got to sort of usher in things that enter into the row. Like, okay, if anything's coming in this row, I'm sort of responsible. I'm the maitre d' of the row, if you will.
Don't even get me started on the trash. Somebody handing you their trash, like I'm not touching that, right? So were you seated? Did you board before or after the people window and aisle?
Before.
So you were there first?
Yeah.
Okay. That makes more sense. If you're there first, you're stuck in the middle, you take those armrests. They are yours. But if you're last, I feel like I didn't check in early enough. I've lost my rights to the armrests. So then I'm just sitting there like
So you just give it up willingly?
Well, I don't want to fight over it. The flight back, I had one. I had one armrest. That felt pretty good. The other one, we were kind of shoulder to shoulder, which sometimes there's just nothing you can do.
Were you in the middle?
Yeah, middle on
both. Got it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, you were only one of two when one is guaranteed yours from the window?
No, we got stuck with the middle, but row 7. To me, it's more who can get off the plane quicker. That's the ultimate power move.
Yes. Yeah.
I even had to put my bag like 3 or 4 rows back, and I was like, nobody's getting out until I've got that suitcase.
You backtracked?
I didn't backtrack. I had Dan in row 11 grab the bag. I said, it's the white one right up there. You get a hold of that puppy. You toss it up here. I'm getting off this flight.
What are you, a woman? Take your own bag down.
Backtrack?
You take your own bag down, James. Nobody needs to help me with my bag.
I think he can handle it. Well, how are you going to maneuver through all those people?
See, if that happens, then what I'm doing is I'm looking around like, you need your bag?
You're bringing down all the bags.
All the bags.
Oh, all the bags.
Yeah. Whose
That's a
bag
flex.
needs to come down? I
That's
can
a
do
flex.
it. I'm a young man with the muscles to take down bags. I can do it.
That's a flex. That's a flex.
Yeah.
All right. So you had to book a flight Saturday?
Yeah, so I rebooked my Tuesday flight for yesterday during the game.
I was going to say, don't lie to us. At what point during the game was that flight schedule rearranged?
Probably about 5 minutes into the second half.
Okay.
I gave it a good college try into the second half to see maybe things will change. I mean, remember Kansas, North Carolina, that was the national title game, but they overcame a 12-point deficit like that.
You're down
So I
16,
yeah,
maybe a little kill shot here and there, and you're
right.
back in it.
Just make a push, get it to within 10 in the first 5 minutes, and that did not happen.
Okay.
Once the barrage of threes occurred, that's when I got on American Airlines and started rebooking.
Once Michigan started 6-4-8 from 3 in the second half,
Yeah.
It was probably time.
Yeah.
It was probably time. Was
Pretty
T.
much
James with you? When did he book his?
The 2 threes that Yaks hit at the front end. I don't know. I wasn't really consulting with Taman.
I didn't know if you guys were chatting about it. You were in my seats.
Well, he was at Southwest Airlines.
Ah.
I was not.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Huge difference and distinction there.
Well, you guys weren't the only ones because, like I said, the airport was flooded with Arizona.
Well, the one thing that I had to ask was the Michigan fans. It's like, where are you going? I saw a few of them in the airport, and one of them was like, well, I took off work. I didn't take off work. And I'm like, what?
You came for one game? You're a fan. We were there for a work trip. Come on.
What?
Spent thousands of dollars on flights and hotel and tickets to go to one game?
Michigan hasn't won a national championship since 1952. Like, what are you doing?
It's been a minute.
Where are you going? I started yelling. Me and this Arizona fan I was talking to started yelling at a Michigan fan. Like, what? Where are you going, sir?
Very aggressive.
You march right back around and go out the door and go back to downtown Indianapolis.
You got a game Monday. 9:07 Eastern.
Out of your mind? I'd say to UConn fans in the airport. I only saw Michigan fans at the airport.
Tells me everything I need to know.
And UConn fans, man, I'd like to wipe that smile off their faces.
Dan Hurley, what are they booing about?
Yeah, and all right.
Just
yeah, we win all the time. Like, yeah, you do, and it's annoying. This is a game tonight. I have no idea who I want to win.
I mean, I felt the same way about
either
Kansas
Michigan
for 2 decades.
wins. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way about
so much more fun though when it's
there's
your
nobody
school.
to root for. There's nobody to root for.
Yeah.
So we'll break it all down tomorrow. All right, that's going to put a wrap on today's show. For Anthony behind the scenes, for Will, our producer on the audio side, he's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. We're back 8 a.m. Eastern Time, sharp on the nose tomorrow, 7 a.m. Central. We'll tip off our basketball recap series with the Utah Utes, but for now, we're out of here.
Peace.